Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully you guys can see me. Hopefully you guys can hear me. All that good stuff. Welcome, everybody. How's it going? We're going to be getting into Chapter 7 of Volume 9, which is a doozy of an episode. I feel like all of the conversations are going to be towards the end when all of the emotions build up. But thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Whoa, Anonymous Gamer. Thank you so much for the super chat. Ever heard of the girl named Sayaka? No, I can't say I have. I'm not entirely sure who that is or what that is about. So, yeah. But thank you. Appreciate the super chat, and I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Give me 1 second. Okay. Cool. How's everybody doing? Thank you guys all again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I was having internet issues like for most of the afternoon yesterday, which is why I typically do the live stream discussions on Thursdays, but I had to offset this one for today because my internet issues were giving me my internet issues were giving me problems with being able to keep a stable connection for the live stream. So I decided to offset it for today. So hopefully there's just as good of a reception today as yesterday, and yeah. Yo, Phil Swift, thank you for the $5 super chat. Jean gained Riz, but in exchange lost some mental stability. Yeah. I mean, he didn't really do anything. He just aged. So it's like his mind is still where it was originally. Like I guess he's matured in the sense of like his new life, but like he hasn't matured past the point of where his like all of those actions caught up with him, which is like his mind is still back where it was with Atlas. So his mindset is kind of stagnated. But yeah, I appreciate it, everyone, for tuning in. And yeah, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I grabbed a bunch of screenshots for this episode and a bunch of clips, so there's going to be a lot of things to break down and discuss and talk about and whatnot, so yeah. Whoa! Church on One, thank you so much for the $10 super chat and your first super chat to the stream. Thank you so much, appreciate that. Thank you. Erdl Tonberry, thank you for the $5 super chat. You got me into RWBY initially, so I blame you for my sadness this last episode. Hey, I feel like Rooster Teeth can share some of that blame, all right? It's not all... I didn't make the show, all right? I'm just doing God's work. I'm just spreading the good word. But I appreciate that. That's great to hear. Thank you for the super chat as well. I appreciate it very, very much. Yo, what up, Ian? Thank you for the $2 super chat, dude. It's been a while. How have you been? I've been good. Outside of RWBY, outside of like RWBY season, week-to-week discussions, live streams, reactions, etc. I've just been like focusing on some other stuff. I paid my taxes this week, so that was never fun to give the government money. I've been focusing on Genshin. Their new game Honkai Star Rail comes out in a couple of weeks. I'm transitioning and getting content ready for post RWBY. I want to do some like anime content. And I've been kind of like asking around like the community tab and stuff like that. So I've just been trying to prep for a bunch of stuff I want to do when Volume 9 is over. So mostly I've been just kind of staying busy. Starcraft Squall, thank you so much for the $5 super chat as well. Two quotes from 1 to 3 by Yang. Yikes, meltdown already, and oh my god, you really exploded. Yeah, I mean, it's a long time coming for sure. So if anything, it's a matter of it was always a matter of when, not if. But I'm surprised that they gave it to us last episode, because I feel like with 3 episodes left, it seems like a lot of things have to be expedited if we want to see the resolution of Ruby's situation, find out what she's going to be, who she's going to be by the end of the volume, getting back to Remnant, settling things with Neo, figuring out how to get back home, if we're going to find out the true story of what happened with Alex and Lewis and what became of whoever made it out and whoever was sacrificed to the tree or ascended or whatever. It seems like there's a lot of stuff we got to get through in 3 episodes. And I feel like a part of me feels like we're just not going to get out of the Ever After this volume. I wouldn't even mind if we stay in the Ever After for partially, like, partway into volume 10, and then to volume 10, halfway through, we make it to Vacuo. But, like, I just feel like there's so much stuff, and there's just not enough time to where they might actually just have to cut some things that they feel is unnecessary. But I feel like the whole volume has been developing Ruby's, like, mental buildup, and for it to now, like, crescendo, like, the last episode didn't feel like the full, like, lashing out. Like, I feel like that was the start of it. So, like, I just feel like there's just so much more that I want from Ruby now that she's expressed herself in such a way that I just want there to be more. And I know a lot of people want Vacuo, but I'm a patient guy. Like, I'm fine with us staying in this Ever After, considering we still haven't made it to some of these other acres. And I don't know, it's a nice change of pace, but, you know, that's just me. How many episodes are in this chapter? How many episodes in the volume? There's 10 episodes. So we are... Episode 8 comes out tomorrow, and then episode 9 next week, and then the finale the week after. So we only have Ruby for 2 more weeks after tomorrow. So, will there be a volume 10? Well, how do I word this? The show isn't going to be finished with this volume. So, naturally, if the show isn't canceled, yes, it just makes sense to get a volume 10. I also feel like some people don't really understand the prospect of, like, this is an unprecedented shift for RWBY in terms of its production. How, like, every year we got a volume of RWBY, and I feel like it took forever for people to acknowledge that we were getting volume 9. We just didn't know when we were going to get it. And not to say that it's guaranteed, but I don't really consider RWBY to kind of be anything that... Like, they made a journal post earlier this year where they were like, oh, we have a lot of things planned for RWBY and stuff like that. So regardless if they haven't announced a green light for volume 10, I'm not worried that we're not going to get a volume 10. And I feel like a lot of people are, because they haven't heard anything yet. The thing I really would think about is, like, why would they announce volume 10 now when they could just save that as an RTX announcement? You know what I mean? Like everyone's hashtagging greenlight volume 10, and I'm just like, it's not that serious. Like, personally, I'm just like, obviously we're gonna get a volume 10. It's just not going to. They're just not gonna. Why would they need to announce something at RTX because we're not getting volume 10 this year? Not to mention, they're not gonna throw volume 10 at us when they still have to focus on this Justice League 2-part movie. You know what I mean? Like, they already have a bunch of things in the pipeline. I think it would be kind of like, you know, like, I would say, like, in the video game industry, like, if you're working on a trilogy for games, like, I wouldn't start talking about the 3rd game before the 2nd game is already out. And at least for Rooster Teeth, they have volume 9, they have part 1 Justice League, part 2 Justice League, and volume 10. But I wouldn't start talking about volume 10 until I got those other projects out first, even if it's not what people want. So, you know, that's just me. I'm not worried about a volume 10. I've never questioned whether we're getting one or not. I just think that a lot of people are antsy about it because previous years they're like, oh, we would have gotten a green light by now. But also what they fail to realize is that we get RWBY every year. Now we're not getting RWBY every year. We're probably getting RWBY every other year now. So, like, there's no insistence for Rooster Teeth to immediately announce a green light, especially when they can, like I said, save it for RTX, which is where I'm sure they're gonna talk about it. Or even more so, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, so for example, right, if we get part 1 Justice League this year, like, we're getting part 1 Justice League this month. And then let's just say we get part 2 Justice League in the fall winter season. And then next holiday, we get RWBY Volume 10. Technically, they don't have to announce RWBY Volume 10 being greenlit until next year's RTX, because like they still have a bunch of other things that they have to get out of the way first. So, I don't know. After waiting 2 years for RWBY, I really don't mind or care how long it takes for them to announce the next one. Like, as long as it's happening, it's not a matter of like, I'm not really worried outside of that. Hey, Mets2128, thank you for the super chat. One word for this chapter. Damn, I know. It's a lot. We're going to get into it. Ian, thanks for the channel membership. Appreciate that. Oathkeeper Roxas99, thank you for the $2 super chat. The episode is brought to you by Mental Health. That's funny. Let's see. Video Card Gamer, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Arnold, looking forward to the reaction video tomorrow. After I watched the episode, I was like, why did it have to come to this after RWBY's breakdown? I feel extremely worried for her. Yeah, I mean, everyone has a breaking point, and I actually think RWBY's static nature as a character since the show has started, outside of like obviously some major like extreme emotional points, RWBY has always kind of bounced back from most things that have affected her mentally. So I feel like this lends itself really well to RWBY no longer like developing into a more dynamic character with her emotions, instead of just like, you know, overcoming every obstacle with seemingly little effort compared to her teammates. So yeah, I definitely welcome this change. I felt bad too. I feel bad for RWBY and John. Out of everyone in the group, them two are going through it the hardest. But yeah. Arnold, do you have the chapter 6 thumbnail for this stream? I don't know why, but some people see the actual thumbnail that I'm running and some people don't. So that might just be like a YouTube thing. Because I do have the updated thumbnail. I'm looking on my channel right now. I definitely have the updated one. So it might just be showing differently if you're on, I don't know, if you're on mobile or if you're on desktop. City in the Great, thank you for the super chat as well. I just want to know how the folks in Vacuo are doing. I know, I mean, I'm sure we'll get there. It's just like a lot of the stuff that's going on in Vacuo, I don't think is very plot heavy or plot focused, right? It's like, get the citizens, get the refugees all settled, quell the Grim, establish a point of just like where they pick up before Salem and company show up for the next relic, and just kind of go from there, secure the maiden and whatnot. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stuff that's going on right now in Vacuo isn't too much of a major focus, but you know, we'll have to see how they structure things when we get there. Patrice, thank you for the $20 super chat. I'm gonna get through the rest of these super chats and then we're gonna jump into the discussion. So I don't want people to feel like I'm just I feel like I'm rambling right now. I do apologize. RWBY's spiral can be explained if we consider the transaction for the sword. There's nothing that says Jinxie couldn't collect. Wait, there's nothing that says Jinxie didn't collect in the Jar of Hope. Yang didn't lose the love because of the prince's declaration. Okay, I'm struggling to follow your sentence, your comment. I think I understand what you're kind of saying is that, like, who's to say Jinxie didn't actually collect whatever hope RWBY had left? But the reason why everything fell through, the reason why Yang got her arm back, the reason RWBY got the sword in the first place is because Jinxie was exposed. And, like, RWBY definitely did not have any hope to give in that episode because, like she didn't even have time to process Atlas. So, and she had just found out that Penny died. So I feel like she's the last person in the group that had any type of hope to give in that situation. Kendall Payton, thank you for the $5 super chat. The episode was a ride. Excited to see your reaction tomorrow. Thank you. Yeah, and we did talk about the thumbnail. It's chapter 7 for me, so I don't know if it's just different for different people, but I'm sure it'll be fixed I don't know, as we get further into the discussion. Happy Man 0203, thank you for the $5 super chat. The more time, the better the volume, in my opinion. They should take their time. Yeah, I don't really think it's like a matter of time. Like, I don't think they're feeling rushed necessarily to work on the next volume. I just think it's a matter of, like, people consider this volume to be like a transitional volume and not like main plot focus, which I feel like we need the characters to be able to process what happened in Atlas before we reset for Vacuo. And if they don't do that, it's going to feel very unnatural for them to be unfazed by what happened in Atlas, but then just reset themselves arbitrarily to be able to kind of handle whatever Salem and company throw at them, even more so now in Vacuo with 2 relics and one of them where you can kind of create whatever the hell you want. So I know everyone just kind of has a different feel for this volume. I actually love this volume. This is like one of my high up there volumes. I have to rewatch it, and I definitely have to rewatch other volumes to really figure out where this one sits for me. But in terms of its aesthetic, in terms of its presentation, in terms of the vibe of this volume, it's incredibly refreshing because it's something, again, this is never done before. And I think it lends itself really well to like the journey that the characters are going on. And the fact that it's a good excuse for the characters to go on like the journey of just kind of like developing themselves internally, because, you know, it's a lot easier to do that in this little pocket space that's removed from the main plot. Whereas it's probably going to be a lot harder for people to figure their shit out in the middle of like the end of the world with Salem and company. So I'm completely okay with them taking their time with the Ever After. It's just a lot of people want to move on from it, and I feel like, I don't know. I don't, if they have more of a story to tell, I think it's fine for them to tell it. You know, even if it is in the Ever After for another volume or partially the next volume. So Erdl Tonberry, thank you for the $5 super chat. Not sure if it's too soon to ask, but do we think Jean is going to make it to volume 10? We'll get into that a little further on. I don't want to jump too ahead of the discussion when it comes to that, but I'll definitely talk about my thoughts of that. We kind of brushed up on it in the last episode, but I definitely feel a bit stronger about my thoughts of Jean after this episode. Let's see. And lastly, before we jump in, Julia Spite, thank you for the super chat. Hello, welcome back. Hey Arnold, I took your advice and bought the Alice Madness Returns game on Steam. I have yet to play it. I'm really excited. I can't wait to get the full experience. Any advice for the game? It's not really advice. It's a single player, story-driven game. You got your easy, normal, hard difficulty. It's very combat focused, but I think it's really fun. It's super casual. It's chill. It's like a 12 to 15 hour game. And yeah, for anybody else who's curious, Alice Madness Returns, one of my favorite video games ever, is currently on an 80% off on Steam right now. Not sponsored, by the way. I just think it's kind of relevant considering how RWBY Volume 9 is heavily inspired by Alice in Wonderland. And Alice Madness Returns is one of my favorite games. It's a super, like, wonky, dark, twisted approach to, like, Alice in Wonderland. And, like, from a game perspective, combat's really good. Graphics are really awesome. And it's got a pretty cool twist the further you play it. And so, yeah, I was just promoting it the other day because I love the game. And the creator is trying to work on a part 3 for the game, because technically Alice Madness Returns is a sequel. The first game is pretty rudimentary and basic. And I think you get it for free if you buy Alice Madness Returns. So, yeah. But, yeah, it's like $4 right now on Steam until next week. So I was just sharing that to anybody who wanted to check it out, because it's one of my favorite games, and the more people that play it, the better. Yeah, I love that game. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to get into this last super chat, and then we're going to transition and start. But I appreciate all of you guys tuning in very, very much. Gloomy, thank you for the super chat as well. I feel so bad for Jean when RWBY shouted out about his make-believe friends. He had to make something out of it, and they were all he had in the Ever After. Yeah, at that point, I just feel like they were both kind of, they were just trying to hurt each other. You know what I mean? Like, they're both hurting in different ways, and you know, when it comes down to it, like when you're in that kind of state, you just kind of want to say whatever you want to say to feel vindicated in your feelings, and you kind of disregard how it's going to make the other person feel. So I felt bad for both of them. I felt so bad for Jean just because he's been here forever. It feels like, you know, he's been here for like 10, 20 years. And, you know, they don't really have an understanding on his perspective. And from Jean's perspective, it's like, with me being here alone for so long, it's kind of like, how bad can it really be that you guys just made it here? And like, y'all are, you know, Ruby's kind of like trampling on his feelings because she's going through stuff that she hasn't had time to process. So you get both of them caught in the crossfires. It's not going to end well. But yeah, so with all of that said, I do appreciate all the super chats. I do appreciate all of you guys tuning in. I don't want to be sitting here reading comments the entire time. Any super chats I don't read right now, I will get to over the course of the discussion. But there's a lot I want to talk about, and I feel like this discussion is going to be very, very exciting. So let us prep and get right into it, shall we? Okay. So... Okay. Okay. There we go. Everything looks good. Rin Wilcox, thank you for the super chat as well. So I was wondering, and I'm not sure if we talked about it, if we could talk about it later, but why do you think Jean looked younger in the Paper Pleasers retelling compared to Alex's flashback? I don't know. I just feel like that might have just been like an art direction. Like the same person probably didn't work on both of them. Also, Jean could have shaved and then his hair grew back. Like, you know, growing facial hair is relatively short compared to how long he's been here. So it could have just been like, yeah, he shaved and then it grew back, and, you know, he's also more stressed because he still can't find a way out of here and whatnot. So yeah. Also, we don't know how long it's been. Like, that could have been, you know, he could have found Alex, and then 5 years later, he also mentioned, like, after Alex left me to die, the Paper Pleasers found me, and, or Juniper brought me to the Paper Pleasers, and they fixed them back up. So yeah. I mean, there's just a lot going on with him, so I don't really think it's too much to think about. Like, oh, you know, at least for me, it didn't dawn on me. I kind of expected just the natural progression of things, but if it looks a little different, the style of how it was told was a little different too. So that could be why. But yeah, so thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the generosity, all of the super chats, for people who are getting their questions in right now. We're going to be starting from the top of the episode, working our way through. I feel like we're going to get into like a lot of the nitty gritty, conversational moments of the episode towards the end. But, we are starting at the beginning, and going into this episode, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting more and more stressed. I feel like I'm getting debated with every episode because of the warning signs that happen at the very beginning of the episode. Like last episode, it was like, warning, photosensitivity. And I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. But, you know, the warning kind of set me off. And then in this episode, it was like, warning, distressing scenes. And I'm like, God damn it. And then I'm thinking about the episode, and I'm thinking about how, like, in the last episode, we got to see a little bit of the village outskirts, like the surrounding area. And I'm like, oh God, he lives in a paper house and he's literally surrounded by fire in the intro. And then the episode starts with this shot right here. And I thought someone was trying to set the village on fire. I'm like, bro, who thought it was a good idea to have fire in the very start of the episode surrounded by paper? You know, I was just like, bro, this is not it. I can't be doing this. I'm like 5 seconds into the episode and I'm already stressed. So that's how I went into the episode. I went into the episode stressed out because I thought Jean was going to catch on fire and die. And also, Paper Pleasers, I love them to death, but if they really wanted to cause a ruckus, I assume it's the Paper Pleasers that are lighting that little like lantern to like, you know, start the day or whatever, I would have just thrown that fire just everywhere. I would have just chucked it in the woods and set the whole place ablaze. But, you know, the paper pleasers are very simple. They're just like, you know, head empty. I do the same thing every day, and hopefully we'll catch Jean slipping one of these days. And to be honest, not to be that guy. Not to be that guy, chat, okay? But Weiss did say, everywhere they go, everywhere they go, the place ends up in ashes. And this episode was no different. So, yeah, that's a little awkward. But, yeah, if you don't want anything bad to happen, just stay away from Team RWBY. Or in this case, you know, this place went up in, I don't know, the place drowned, essentially. But, yeah, Atlas went down. The freaking, the garden acre, like, marketplace went down. Jean's little paper village went down. And what's the constant? Weiss is there. The follow beacon? Weiss was there. I'm just kidding. But no, but seriously, like, these people have, like, a freaking dark looming cloud of death and destruction that follows them wherever they go. And, like, Weiss acknowledges it. And then it just never, like, no, like, and that's it. It's like, oh, that happened. That's a thing. So, yeah, it kind of sucks that the plot armor is not thick enough, because Team RWBY and company are safe. It's just everyone around them is their days are numbered, essentially. Yeah, damn, dude, Uncle Crow, dude, Crow. Too bad Crow's not here. It'd be a real freaking fiesta if he was here. But, yeah, I thought that was really funny. Let's see. The Potato J, Paper Pleasers merch when? Bro, Rooster Teeth, you're fumbling the bag, okay? Y'all should have had little merch out by now. Y'all should have had the little Paper Pleaser star plushies in the store the day the episode went live. Like, this is not rocket science. Who is in charge of Rooster Teeth merch department? Who's in charge of e-commerce at Rooster Teeth? Also, where's my goddamn poster? It's been like 4 years. We still don't have a RWBY poster. A purchasable RWBY poster in the RT store for all the smart... For all the big brain smart Alex that want to be like, well, they did tweet about the poster, but it's like, if you can't buy it, then that's not a poster. That's just key art. There's a difference. We haven't got a purchasable poster from Rooster Teeth since Volume 6. But yeah, give us the little star plushies, the little paper pleasers as star plushies. Give us a Jupiter plushie as well. I'm pretty sure plushies cost a lot of money to like mass produce, but you know what the people want. This is what the people want. Okay, I'm just trying to establish what they want and relay that to you, so that way everyone's happy. Yeah, and make sure the plushies are non-dissolvable in water. Oh, man. But yeah, so the episode opens up, by the way. Episode opens up, the fire shows up. I'm already high-strung, stressed out of my mind, because I think the place is gonna... I think Jean's gonna, like, freaking burn alive in his bed. And Team RWBY and company are also getting some shut-eye. Everyone but Ruby Rose. I don't even think she slept, which is gonna make the entire sequence of events that befall this episode all the more stress-inducing. You know, also, it's weird that Jean... It's also really weird that Jean sleeps in his full suit of armor. Like, bro, you don't have, like, where's your freaking Pumpkin Pete's onesie, bro? You telling me you didn't have time to sew in the Ever After? You sleep in full body armor in bed. And I'm just like, bro, that can't be... You cannot get really good sleep. There's no way you overslept wearing that armor. I'm sorry. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. Ruby's obviously still conflicted. She's probably thinking over Crescent Rose, her decisions, all that stuff. And even this episode is like, I feel like Ruby's been poked and prodded the entire volume. And I really want to do like a compilation video of all of the moments in the Ever After that have built up and led to her like outburst at the end of the episode, because a lot of people think that it came out of nowhere, or that it was unwarranted, or that Ruby was kind of out of line, or even kind of mentioning like how it's not necessarily on her teammates to follow up on her, and she should do more to kind of express herself or express how she's feeling. And I was in that camp before this episode came out. If you guys remember last week, I was talking about how I was like, oh man, like I really feel like Ruby needs to open up more and like communicate how she's feeling. And I'm gonna get to that a little further in the episode, but I have had a slight change of heart after this episode came out, and I'm gonna explain why. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyways, I'm late for a very important date. I love the reference to the White Rabbit. That's the first thing that my brain immediately snapped to. I'm like, oh shit, that's an Alice in Wonderland reference. Holy moly. So I thought that was really cool. This is not a good part. This is not a good scene right here. Ruby's literally like, everyone's like, oh shit, like what's going on? He's like, oh man, the place is on fire. Everything's going up in smoke. I overslept. How could I do this? Meet me in the town. And then everyone's just kind of like trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And then Blake's like, oh, where's your Ruby? Where's your weapon? And she's like, oh, I'm still waking up. And what does Weiss do? Hurry up, Ruby. People need us. Like, not what you need to be doing. This is not what Ruby Rose needs. She doesn't need her teammates to be snapping at her to get the show on the road. She also just got her weapon back. And it's just, I don't know, man. I saw that happen, and I was like, Ruby's gonna snap one of these. I literally said Ruby's gonna snap one of these episodes. The joke is it was this episode that had happened, so I knew that was gonna happen. I was like, yep, that's not gonna, I'm sure that's very healthy for Ruby to just tolerate. So that was my first red flag. I was like, okay, Ruby's doing bad. Ruby's not up to speed. It's Ruby's fault. Get your shit together. You're the team leader. And so, not saying Weiss did it on purpose or anything, but this is, again, it's just that it pushes the needle a little closer to, like, meltdown mode. And so, yeah, I noticed that, and I was like, God damn it, Weiss, you don't need to be doing this. You don't know what's about to happen. That's all I was basically getting at. I'm like, you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. But, Little, cute as a button. You're like, why is everyone mad when they oversleep? Oversleeping is the best thing ever. And I'm just like, Little, I don't know. Oh, I actually saw this on Twitter between last week and this week, where I saw somebody, and I think I don't know if I mentioned this in the live stream last week, but somebody mentioned on Twitter that it's very interesting how often Little sleeps, and they referenced it to the doorknob in Alice in Wonderland, where the doorknob like was sleeping, and Alice had to like wake it up. And the doorknob could be a reference to the door back to Remnant, and that's how Little will be a part of that. And so I just thought that was very interesting. I didn't have time to make like a comparison, like a screenshot comparison. Yeah, Little is also a door mouse. So, you know, there's that too. So Little constantly falling asleep and sleeping and whatnot could be a reference to that as well, potentially. So I thought that was really interesting, and figured I'd reference it before because Little, again, constantly talking about sleeping, or is obviously sleeping a lot. Joan of Arc was burned at the stake. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of annoyed by hearing how often Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, because every time fire is involved, someone's always like, Jean's gonna die. I've been hearing about that with Jean ever since Volume 5 with Cinder, where people were like, oh, Jean's gonna verse Cinder, Jean's gonna die, because Cinder uses fire, and Jean was burned at the stake. And every time there's fire in an episode, or fire is around anything, and Jean is potentially is a potential factor, I feel like people have been waiting for Jean to die for the last 5 volumes. You know, the last 4 or 5 volumes at this rate. And I'm just like, bro, I feel like Jean's gonna die of cringe by that point. He's like, bro, I can't deal with this community right now. Vantage Emblem, thank you for the super chat. Jean breaking this episode broke me. Most fun I had in RWBY since volume 6, and I love the whole show. Yeah, I was like, I'm like super antsy to see everyone's thoughts about the episode tomorrow, like with reaction videos and things of that nature. This was a super exciting episode because, you know, it was a very emotionally impactful. Like, it was just a lot of emotional buildup and warranted at that. And it kind of gets you thinking about, like, I feel like everyone has like a position. Like, do people feel that Jean was justified? Do people feel that RWBY was justified? Do they think that they're both wrong? Do they think that they're both valid? And, you know, the emotions just kind of got out of hand and people said things that they didn't mean. Like, I just feel like it's really great to kind of understand where every viewer's mind is at with the episode. It kind of creates some dynamic conversations. It's not necessarily black and white. I think both sides said things that were very valid. Just the way that they said it wasn't the healthiest. And at this rate, I can't expect everything to be squeaky clean because motherfuckers ain't got time for that. So I love when, like, another episode I really enjoyed conversations like this was like volume 6 chapter 2 with like Espen lying to Team RWBY and company. Like, regardless of the morality, should Espen have lied is irrelevant in that regard. For me, I enjoyed more of like where people in the community felt like where their moral compass was with how they tolerate that kind of stuff, or where they see the character's perspective on that. And I feel like this episode was very rich for conversations over the last week. And I had a lot of great conversations of this episode that I appreciated because of that. But yeah, so Jean is late because these afterins are absolutely unhinged. And we fast forward to the town. Jean is the hero of this place. And this place is literally a freaking going to hell in a handbasket with the amount of fires. Everything's made out of paper. I'm surprised these afterins haven't like burned themselves alive. They're not the sharpest tool in the shed, but they're very consistent in their plans. And I realized shortly after the episode was playing out, like by the time we got the explanation from the afterins about Jean and like his insistence on preventing them from completing any of their tasks or completing any of their goals, it's very clear where the distressing aspect of the episode came from. But yeah, so Jean is basically Mr. Fixer-Upper for this place. You got the little star people, aka the people pleasers, and they're just trying to destroy this place the best way they can so that way they can go back to the tree. And they're very creative about it, and I don't know if I should be impressed or if I should be mortified by that. But yeah, Jean is here. Juniper is also helping him out as well. And I said the same thing Yang said. I'm like, why is this place made of paper? And why is there fire allowed in this place? And how do these freaking star cutout paper pleasers make fire and not burn themselves alive in the process? Like, that's what how are they making this combustion, like these like combustion devices to set the place on fire with explosions and explosives and whatnot? I don't know, man. It's the ever after. I guess your imagination, it's as vast as your imagination wants it to be. But yeah, I just found it to be really interesting because these things are so simplistic. They're so simple. They're so basic. They're so wholesome. I love the voices. I love the sound effects that they have on their voice. I just remembered, I completely forgot to credit this, but Issa Badiola voices the purple paper pleaser. That was I think the one that was delivering like the food on the tray and was talking about like the whole purpose of what they're trying to do and why Jean is preventing them. Issa Badiola voices the purple paper pleaser. And for those who don't know, Issa Badiola also voices Best Girl, aka Ciao Soleil. So I'm convinced that they are prepping this woman to get back into the recording booth and are basically setting her up to kind of build her back up to her prime focus, her prime role in volume 9, in volume 10 or 11, whenever we get back to Vacuo, so that way her character can take center stage when we get there. All right, I'm calling it. All right, I saw Issa's name in the credits after I did my reaction, and I popped off. I'm like, oh shit. I was so happy, dude. I was like, oh my god, she's actually recording RWBY proper again. This can't be a coincidence. They could have gotten anybody, but they got her. I'm not coping, all right? I'm not coping, okay? This is, I hope she comes back in I hope she comes back in Vacuo. So every single person, I'm going to come back to these live stream discussions. I'm going to screenshot your name and your comment, and I'm going to put you on full blast if Issa Badiola's character ever comes back in RWBY. All right? You better, I'm going to make sure you never show your face around here again. I'm never going to let you live it down. Actual receipts, and I'm gonna get that shit framed, and I'm gonna be like, look how everyone was just wrong. Imagine being on the wrong side of history when Issa Badiola comes back as Ciao Soleil in RWBY. You know, I'm gonna be like, damn, all you had to do was trust in your boy. But you know, anyways, I was very excited to see that. And I'm holding out hope for the eventuality of that potentially happening someday. Anyways, paper pleasers, cute as a button, these little guys. They're just living their best life. They're like, hey, 3 cheers for the rusted knight and his white rabbit, hip hip hooray. Hello, water, how may I serve you? And I'm just like, damn, bro, like, y'all are just out here waiting hand and foot on anything and everything. And I'm like, the world doesn't deserve these little guys. Also, they do need to make plushies out of these. Like, are you kidding me? This is literally a gold mine right here. You're sitting on money right now, I almost said MiHoYo. You're sitting on money, Rooster Teeth. But yeah, and all of them are kind of based on a different character, potentially, which I, again, I love that and I hate that because it really kind of puts into perspective Jean's mental state for, like how he's been trying to cope with being alone in the ever after with just him and the Afterins and Juniper this entire time. And yeah, like I just really liked how we kind of got the established Afterins for this portion of the episode, how this one is named after Ren, and there's one named after RWBY, and there's one named after like every member of Team Juniper. And it's just, I don't know, it's wholesome because it's like, oh, that's so sweet. Jean is actually thinking of his proper teammates, but at the same time, it's like, it's literally, if you guys have ever seen the movie Castaway, it's literally like the freaking Wilson volleyball. It's like you're alone for so long that you just have to like create something out of nothing for your own mentality. And yeah, when it was like, oh hi, I'm the one called RWBY, I'm like, oh my god, this is so sad. Like, I'm glad Jean has found something to kind of give him mental stability, but at the same time, that mental stability is so fragile. Obviously, as the episode goes on, like this was the freaking thing that was keeping him together all these years, and then it just got taken away from him. So, yeah, after a while, I figured when he called out Ren, I was like, okay, is this one red? Is this one RWBY because it's red? And then I thought that the purple one that was talking to them was based on Blake because it was purple, like the same shade of purple as Blake. And yeah, I just figured it was that. It was just that simple. Yang's not the biggest fan. She's like, I fucking hate that like there's a RWBY Rose stand-in for the actual RWBY Rose that's in front of me right now. And it's like, oh, it's hard for them to understand because they're not in Jean's perspective, you know, they're not in Jean's shoes. And I think Keith on Twitter was actually trying to match up potential paper pleasers with actual characters. And I think they made it kind of far into their thread of doing that, which was kind of cool. Jean was a bit more right in my opinion. It's not her team's fault she won't reach out. It's their fault. It's not their fault she bottles things up. We'll get into that, Brandon Gaines. I have opinions on those opinions, and yeah, we'll definitely jump into that further in the episode. Vengeance, thank you for the super chat. Oh my God, no! We can't be doing this. We're not doing this right now. I didn't even stop to think about it. Oh my God. Their comment says, Pyrrha died again in this episode. R.I.P. Paper Pyrrha. Why must they hurt me this way? Fuck. She never got to finish her homework, I guess. I don't want to do this anymore, guys. I'm about to go to the tree, bro. I'm about to ascend. I can't do this anymore. Oh my God. Bro. I didn't even think of that. It's always the redheads, bro. I'm telling you. Always, bro. Always. Okay. Well, I'm going to try to just turn my brain off and not remember. I'm going to repress that emotion. I'm going to repress that thought right there. All right. So what was I saying? What was I just saying? I completely blacked out for like the last 3 minutes. I don't remember what I was talking about. Anyways, they're transitioning now before Jean foreshadows how the episode plays out, like literally to a T. I'm like, damn, Jean, you realize you're in a fairy tale, right? You realize this is a plot-driven story and you're surrounded by the protagonists. Weishni in particular. So, and everywhere they go, death, damnation soon follows. So Jean manifested this, just saying, you know, Jean definitely manifested. Unlucky. So they transition, and I definitely wanted to, I thought this was like very GIF worthy. It's like a reaction moment. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think the caption would be for something like this? What's the appropriate caption for a, like a huddle up? It's like, I don't know. I'm not creative to think on the fly. I didn't really give it much thought. I just thought this was a really, your Cial copium. All right, hold on. Give me a second. Let me click this person's name real quick. Ban user from this channel. Okay, there we go. All right. Ha, I got the last laugh, buddy. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't ban anybody. No, I'm just kidding. All right, don't make fun of my CL copium, okay? It's all right, would you make fun of Jean and his paper pleasers, okay? He did that to get by. Let me have this, okay? I haven't seen this character in literally like 6 years. I need something. Rooster Teeth's making it really hard out here for your boy. Anyways, Jean's life work. We have a map of the Ever After, and I just want to say, I went back and rewatched this episode with a few people in my Discord, and I really appreciate how not only I not only appreciate the work that Jean went into, because it kind of gives us a layout of the Ever After. There's a shit ton of acres we haven't even seen, and then there's a bunch of acres that we have seen and got shots of, and there's some that we've actually been to. This map is incredibly accurate for how we saw the Ever After at the end of episode 2, or even the end of, the end of episode 1, the beginning of episode 2, where we got that big landscape shot. And I some of you guys have probably already seen it based on my tweet earlier, but I tweeted out a couple of edits that I made to the episode as well. But we have all of these different acres here surrounded by the tree, and this is basically in the, it's kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know. but it's very... Jean has not made a lot of progress when you consider and factor in how much of babysitting he's doing for the afterins, how much babysitting he's doing for the paper pleasers, when he's been here for 10 to 20 years and he's only made this much progress. Team RWBY has been in the Ever After. I'll say, let's just say they've been in the Ever After for like 2 to 3 days. All right, I'm giving them like, I'm being generous there. 2 to 3 days, let's say. They've made it to the Hunter Mice, the Crimson Castle, the Garden, and the Paper Pleasers in that time. You know? And it's like, my guy. You know? And you've been here for 10 to 20 years, and if you're still here, that literally means you have not found a way out yet. And, like, I can't be upset with Team RWBY and company for deciding, like, yo, if we're gonna make any progress, we gotta like pull Jean away from this random ass like objective he has, or they're not getting out either. You know? And so, and I was very conflicted about that too, because it's like, I love Jean. I want to trust Jean. I wanna have faith in Jean, but like, I also feel like he is kind of compromised, and he was kind of compromised after being here for so long, and it's also for the sake of his mentality. You know what I mean? Also, Primo Wiling, can you stop spamming the same thing in chat? We see your comment. Yang 100% forgot she had a sister. I don't think so. But yeah, you only need to type it once. Anyways. And so like the pathing of the episode too. So I pathed that out as well, where you got the Hunter Mice. That's where we started the episode. Well, we started on the beach. We made it to the Hunter Mice. And then we made it to the Crimson Castle. We went to the Toy Town area. We went to the castle itself. Then we made it to the garden. We made it to the market area of the garden. And it seems like we've been in like 2 main areas of each acre, right? We were at the beach area and then the Hunter Mice area in the first acre. Then we were at the Toy Town and the Crimson Castle in the second acre. Then we were at the garden and then the marketplace in the third acre. And now we're currently at the Paper Pleasers, and we might also transition to a different part of that acre before we move on. If we move on, depending on where the hell RWBY went. So, and that's currently where we're at right now. I want to show you guys the edits that I was actually working on, because this is the basic version of just Jean's work that he did. But I went back, so I basically edited all of these little 1, 2, 3, 4, all of these little hexagons, and I took them and I basically assorted them to their respective acres from the shot that we got at the end of episode 2. And it's actually pretty accurate too. When you look at it, when you look and you see the placements of the acres as well. So like if you look at the Hunter Mice acre right here, the very tip of that acre is the shot that they're standing on here. So I thought it was really cool. So I was just like, okay, so the tree's in the center. You got the left acre. So Jean, we've only explored the acres on the right. So Team RWBY has gone from the green Hunter Mice acre, and then they went to the Crimson Castle, and then the garden, and now the Paper Pleaser. So they're kind of veering to the right, whereas all the stuff on the left, including the caker, we have not seen yet. And I'm so sad, because I feel like we might not. I feel like this is just for show, and it's so unfortunate because the caker is literally the most appealing acre in this entire place so far, you know? Also, this kind of makes me wonder, this kind of makes me feel like this is actually based on the 100 acre wood, because you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You have 20 other acres that are kind of, that are unaccounted for here. So you got 20 others that we just don't know what they are. They're kind of blanked out, and you can't even see, like, you can see acres in the background and stuff like that. They're not super defined, but yeah, so you got these, and then also, if you look on the side here, I actually didn't notice this, but it's actually really cool. So if I were to zoom any further in, you guys can probably see it, but the acre to the right of the Paper Pleasers, if you zoom into that shot specifically, on the right side of the volcano, that's the ruin acre where the Jabberwocker was that's where Neo fell, basically. That's the acre that I have the Jabberwocker icon on. That's the ruinous purple acre that Neo fell in. And it's so cool because I didn't notice that until I went back to this after this episode came out. So I thought that was really cool. So Neo landed super far, and they landed a lot closer to the paper pleasers, which makes sense of why they... Jean's like, oh my God, they found us. I'm like, bro, you literally live right next door to the Jabberwocker. So I thought that was really, really cool. And then you see like the Swan Lake in the very back. I assume that's Swan Lake because there's like water over there. And then they got the volcano. And then to the right of where they're at, you can actually see like this blank acre to the right. I don't know if we're ever going to get more than that. And then there's some to the far distance in the back that have like those spikes. I don't know what those are all about. So there's very clear that there's a lot more to the Ever After than we know. And I also decided to, I also did this cool edit as well, where I kind of filled in the points of interest based on what we've seen of the episode thus far. So the Hunter might, again, like it's basically the same thing. I just filled them in with an image just to kind of make the map look a little bit more livelier. Yes, I did use the pyramid for the pyramid acre. All right. I felt like that was, I felt like that was appropriate. So yeah, we didn't have one for the stinky cheese. We didn't even see that. We can't see the stinky cheese in the shot. It's behind the tree technically. And then the farming flats, I don't know if we've seen, I don't think we don't have like a defined shot for me to have like an image for that either. So yeah, I have a lot. I love how I just really, really like how they like the comparisons between these two. Like it's very accurate. Like you can actually see and plan and map out the path that Team RWBY has gone compared to the map that Jean has. So yeah, I'm just a sucker for stuff like that. Like stuff where I'm like, oh, let me go back and double check and see how accurate it was, and it was actually pretty accurate. So yeah, I really liked how they put that together. And again, it kind of establishes that Jean knows his way around the Ever After as well. So yeah. LOL, I get it. Pyramid. I actually said that during my reaction. He was like, oh, there's 1 acre with some pyramids. And I was like, pyramids? And, you know, it's just a pun. It's just an easy low-hanging fruit pun. Pyramids. Makes sense. But yeah, so we establish, or rather we're kind of at the point where Jean is very clear in his you know, he wants to have his cake and eat. He wants to have his caker and eat it too, right? He's like, okay, I want us to try to find a way out of here, despite me being here for 20 years. But, you know, patience is a virtue and all of that. And if we work hard enough, and if we try hard enough, we can do everything. We can save the paper pleasers, and we can get out of here. Or rather, y'all can do the busy work while I go out and be the hero. And it's just like you got to get your priorities in check. Jean is also not in the best state of mind, but from his perspective, he's trying to preserve his mentality, his sanity, because this is the first thing that he's truly latched onto in the Ever After that has kept him from basically going off the deep end in terms of his mental state. Right? It's not, I don't think it's just his resolve to want to save these people, but these people have also given him solace, where it's like, if you take this away from Jean, he's pretty much done. You know what I mean? That outburst at the end of the episode is the result of what was keeping him together, which was the Afterans. They gave him purpose. They took his mind off of things. You know what I mean? Like they allowed him to be the hero that he always wanted to. And in a way, it also took his mind off of the bad stuff that's plagued him, you know, ever since Atlas and Penny. And so I can understand him wanting to do this as like a self-preservation thing. He wants to he doesn't want to be reminded. He doesn't want to go back. And so he wants to be able to keep what he already has, but also make progress. And you just can't have both. It's either, if you give in to the Afterans, you're never getting home. And if you give in to going home, you got to give up the Afterans. But he's unwilling to let go of either. So he's not able to make significant progress, which is unfortunate. And it's just like, you know, and so he gets them roped in. But then you also have to look at the situation of, well, in 10 to 20 years, if you have not made significant progress on your own, you know what I mean? It's like, even if you like, he has to make up the years of time that he's lost with Team RWBY. They're also not being able to make progress either, despite all the stuff that they've done without him up to this point. So they're kind of thrown into the situation where they're like, okay, Jean's not all there. We can't depend on him. We can't really expect him to pull his weight in the way that we need if we all want to get home together. And he seems more content in the ever after than they do. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. So, and he's got like this to-do list and all of that stuff. And I completely understand like where they're both at. They're just in two different places. Like Jean, he's living in a completely different world. He's got a completely different perspective. His experiences are just, he's not able to relate to anybody in this regard and vice versa. And so it just sucks because it's like, I wanted this to work out for them. You know what I mean? But it's just like the time has just made things impossible for them to see eye to eye. Jean thinks he knows. Jean has the knowledge and the know-how and the expertise and the, you know, for the ever after itself. He also doesn't want them trusting the cat, which the cat seems like it was a good, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many gray, like moving parts to all of this that just makes it impossible for any of them to kind of see things eye to eye. So, we also got the list, which I will say the list itself is pretty interesting. You got the disaster with the lightning, save the paper pleasers from residual leaks. You got brunch, patrol the town, check on the individual paper pleasers, stop the pebble tower from toppling, secure the dam, save Ren from falling in the koi pond, watch out for the terrible twos, keep away from the shredder. And there's a bunch of these. I don't even think I'll be able to keep up with all of these on the first rundown here. No more fried food, too much grease, tea shop fiasco, stop the second fire, stop the residual water, stop the goose, which I assume that's like an Untitled Goose game reference. That's the first thing I thought of. Keep Oscar away from whatever that was. Stop the coffee maker at the cafe before it explodes. Stop Nora from climbing the pebble tower during the storm. Trust me, this one ends poorly. Take the scissors away from Neptune. Stop the bandit. Stop the third and final and hopefully final fire. Help Pyrrha with her homework. Stop the unfolding. You'll know it when you see it. Take away the makeshift lightning rods during the storm. Get the paper pleasers to bed. Final rounds. Then find a way home. And it's like, bruh. Your life is pretty much laid out for you at that point. Not the Pyrrha with her homework. I know. I'm actually shocked that despite him acknowledging and just kind of letting go of Pyrrha, it almost kind of like relapsed on him. Right? Because Volume 6 felt like it was really him saying, like him making peace with Pyrrha at least. And now it's kind of like a regression because it's like, oh, well, you know, all the paper pleasers. So it's not just the characters that I haven't been around for so long. It's all of them, including Pyrrha. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, the Terrible Twos is funny because that's kind of like, I don't know if there's like little 2-year-olds, right? The Terrible Twos is kind of like when referencing like children, like at that age, that's where like children are at their absolute worst, like when they're in their twos. Or like in that, you know, 2 to 5 range. But, yeah, so there might be some paper pleasers that are just a bit of a handful, and they might be in pairs too. Also tearable, right? That's a pun because they're paper and they can tear. So, so yeah, the lightning makeshift rod. So basically this is, as morbid as this is basically the Afterins, like death plan. Like all of this is just like the Afterins contingency plan to try to ascend. And Jean is basically like, I can't let you do that because I need to preserve my mental fortitude. And if you guys go, that like, you know, that's the end for me. So he's basically doing it against their will, which is the distressing part of the episode because this whole episode is basically establishing that the Afterins are trying to kill themselves as a way of ascending back to the tree because it's either because they've completed their tasks and they're not allowed to willingly go back to the tree because Jean won't let them. So in a distressing sense of the phrase, they're getting creative. And yeah, like when you think about it, that's like super dark. I know they're just little paper cutouts or whatever, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I know it's Rebirth, but they still have to go through the process, and it's just like, holy shit, dude. Hey, Hawk, thank you for the $5 super chat. Something else to consider, the paper pleasers wanted to ascend as a direct parallel to his trauma with Penny. If he lets them, then he has to accept that too. That's true. Yeah, that is actually true, because Penny made that decision for herself, and she needed Jean to help her with that decision. And so by Jean, yeah, I completely see that as well. Again, it reminds him of the guilt. It reminds him of his perceived failure. It reminds him of the suffering and the pain and the trauma of that. And so again, it's a defense mechanism. It's his way. It's a self-preservation thing for him to just be like, I'm not going to let y'all do that because that's going to do more damage to me than I'm able to handle, you know? So, yeah. Mad Stinger, thank you for the $20 super chat. Really appreciate that. Hi, Arnold. It's been genuinely heartwarming to watch your live streams again for Volume 9. Do you think Jean is well enough to lead again? Should he make it back? It's hard to tell, because I don't think this age thing is reversible, because there's no type of divine intervention that caused him to age like this. He literally aged naturally. And so I just don't know. I literally don't know what his life would be like going back to Remnant. It wouldn't be the same. And I don't know if he would, if like the effects of everything that he went through in the Ever After would carry on back in the real world. Like, I don't know. It's really difficult for Jean at the very least, because he seems like he's kind of been pushed, like his character and his purpose as a character seems to have been pushed to the limits at this point. And like I said last week, the main thing that I feel for with Jean is Ren and Nora. Like, I feel like it would be so disheartening for Jean's story to be cut in the Ever After, and Ren and Nora not even having like a moment of to kind of process that, you know, and have like everything that happened so fast and not even knowing what happened to him, you know? Yeah, no closure or anything like that. So I really don't know. I want Jean to be able to go back to Remnant, but with how he is now mentally, I just don't know if that's even for the best, considering his outlook on everything by the end of this episode. So yeah, I'm not too sure at the moment. Gloomy, thank you for the super chat. We all knew, Ren and Nora, oh my god, I literally can't read today. We all knew Ren and Nora were inseparable. Can't kill one without killing the other. Rip Paper. Oh, Ren and Nora. Yeah, all of Team Juniper freaking died in the flood. Yeah. Again, it's a parallel to the lives that were lost and the failures that were made, that happened because of Atlas and everything. So this just kind of makes him, it kind of forces him to acknowledge everything, even though he was trying for years to repress it and not think about it. And he lashes out at Team RWBY and company, particularly RWBY, because them getting involved with him caused something that he's basically kept a tight knot on for the last 10, 20 years to be undone with their presence, you know, and it kind of pushed him to this point. Jean just can't fix what isn't broken. He's just running from the harsh reality. Yeah, I mean, these are leaders that are experiencing firsthand what it's like to deal with failure. You know what I mean? Like, RWBY and Jean have been leaders of Team RWBY since the start of the show. And if there's anything that I would say that this is teaching them, it's that being a leader isn't easy. and making those decisions falls on them as the decision makers. You know, you want to take the dub when you make a call that works in your favor. That's cool, but be expected to take those losses and be expected to handle the criticism and handle the failures and handle what you could have done better and handle people looking at you differently and thinking of you differently and whatnot, and having perspective on other people who have led and who have made tough calls or did things that made them an enemy, like Ironwood, like Ozpin, you know? And the difference here is that they're leaders, but they don't have the experience to handle a failure. And this failure is bigger than any other because Beacon wasn't on them. They were kids. Vacuo, I would say, wasn't on them because there were a bunch of moving parts there. Atlas was a direct contribution of their actions, their decisions as a team, all of them coming together and deciding it's a risk that we're willing to take. And to some extent, it worked out, and others it didn't. Yeah, sorry, I meant Mistral. I don't know why I said Haven. Wait, did I say... Sorry. You know what I mean. I meant Mistral and Haven, not Vacuo. Sorry, I'm literally getting tongue-tied in my thoughts. Yeah, obviously, I mean the kingdoms that we've been to. But... them at each other's throats, in a way, is kind of them also being upset with themselves that they weren't smart enough, they weren't strong enough, they weren't fast enough. And the worst thing, too, that you also have to remember is that the villains did a good job. The villains villained, and they did it well. You know, so when Jean lashes out at RWBY saying, this is because of your plan that didn't work, it's easy to say that because no matter what plan they came up with, Cinder was always going to counter it because she had divine intervention. She had a freaking relic that would have countered any plan that they came up with. It just so happened that it was RWBY's plan, which was a good plan, mind you. They thought of everything. It's just that Cinder countered them. You know? And so, but they don't know that. They don't know that their plan actually worked. They don't know that, you know, how, I guess they do, like Cinder was basically monologuing, but, you know, it just sucks. And there's a little bit of blame, not even blame, but there's just oversights, right? Like the one-way ticket to Vacuo thing. You know, Ambrosius being a character, not really giving, you know what I mean? Like, you get what you ask for, and so on and so forth. And it's not even really necessarily on Weiss, because there was no one that was able to, you know, to vet that process. Like, no one was like, oh, wait, let's refine that, because, like, no one caught that mistake either. That's something that's very easily overlooked. And we talked about that last week, too. So it's just like the plan worked. They saved Atlas. They basically set out to counter what Ironwood was willing to do. Like, Ironwood was willing to level Mantle. They saved Mantle in the process. They saved the people of Atlas in the process, but they lost the bigger pieces. But they didn't do it at the cost of their humanity. You know what I mean? They didn't do it where they were like, I'm willing to kill people if it means getting what I want. And that makes them better than Ironwood in a way. But at the same time, it's like, if you're looking at like the objective goal, which is preventing Salem from getting closer to her goal, yeah, you took an L, you took a dub, but you took an L as well. And it just matters what do you value more? You know, I think that's what matters as well. If you don't care about the people because Salem got what she wanted, then you kind of have to question like where you're at in terms of like what are you willing to risk or what are you willing to sacrifice. But Ironwood's plan was to stop Salem, while RWBY's plan was to save as many people as possible. I don't think that is necessarily true. Ironwood's plan was to like get the relics. Ironwood's plan was based off of like Ironwood didn't know if his plan was going to happen or not. You take the vault, you take the relic out of the vault. Who's to say that Salem couldn't reach where they were in the atmosphere? You know what I mean? Like, the thing was, the guarantee was that, like, if the relic is in the vault, Salem can never get to it. But if you take it out of the vault, that gets that makes it easier for her to get the relic. You know? Grim can't go into space. Well, he wasn't going into space. He was just going super high in the Earth's atmosphere. But like, who's to say her whale couldn't just go up there? You know what I mean? Whale, like, I feel like the atmosphere is like the equivalent of the ocean, for example, right? So like that whale should have been able to handle high pressure atmospheric conditions or whatever. It's a matter of time. You know what I mean? Like, Salem could just wait them out. Or she can create something strong enough or something that could withstand that eventually. You know what I mean? Like, she could outlive him. And they can't go into space because gravity dust doesn't work outside of the atmosphere. Even if they were using the relic to power and, like, send them super high into the sky. So it's like, that was the risk that Ironwood was willing to take, and Team RWBY and company felt like it was a risk that was going to backfire because it was too short-sighted. And he was willing to get everybody else killed in the process, despite him recently being like, hey, let's get everybody on the same page. Let's get everyone together. Let's work together. So yeah. Yet dust works in the ever after. I just think they mean that, like, dust doesn't work in a vacuum. Not that it's literally within Remnant itself. I just think, like, dust doesn't work in a vacuum. Which is outside of the atmosphere. But yeah. Anyways, I couldn't help. And I mentioned this during my reaction too, but Jean was giving me big Ironwood vibes this episode. When he said they don't know what they want, the second he said that, I immediately thought of Ironwood. Right? When Ironwood was like, I know what's best for Atlas. I know better. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I feel like Jean's isn't like Jean's not the enemy, but Jean is mentally compromised, which means that he can't even trust his own perspective because he's just so mentally pushed to the brink that he's just trying to think about his own self-preservation. And that could result in not really caring about what other people want or other people's perspectives. And that could come off as, what's the word I'm looking for? That could come off as, not threatening, but unsettling, you know? And so, yeah, like he's very forceful with like his approach. But at the same time, like, Team RWBY has to have agency for themselves. They have to be able to say no, or they have to be able to say, Jean, we don't know if your plan is necessarily the best option given the circumstances. And the way he reacts or the way he responds is going to dictate whether or not they can really kind of go forward with trusting him, relying on him, or whatever the case might be. And obviously, as time goes on, you know, it's very clear that they're kind of at a standstill even now because he's very unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, I'm sorry, but you do not make it, you only make it harder for people to like want to put faith or trust you. You know, like, unpredictability is just a scary thing sometimes. Not to say that he's capable of doing terrible things. It's just, if I can't, like, I have to, that has to be an option. That has to be a possibility. You know? So I couldn't help but notice these parallels between the last episode and this one. And when Jean mentioned, and another thing too, which is hilarious, is that, like, he mentions to Team RWBY, he's like, they don't know what they want. Afterins are either too clever, too stupid, or too crazy to trust. Right? And I thought of Jean in that moment, right? Because when he said too clever, he's obviously referring to the cat. Too stupid is referring to the Afterins. They're simple. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather tell them what to do than let them do their own thing. And he said too crazy. And with Jean being the rusted knight who is an Afterin within the story, it kind of made me think, like, is Jean technically an Afterin at this point? With given how long he's been in the Ever After? Because he fits that crazy description pretty well. Yeah, it's either that or he's projecting. But, like, I thought that. I was like, you're looking pretty crazy right now, so I don't know if we can necessarily trust you either. You know what I mean? Like, you're your own worst enemy right now. Yeah, definitely projecting. He's institutionalized in the Ever After now. He's the hero. Yeah, I just thought if that applied to him at all, because it's like, you know, he says he's not crazy, but the first people that say they're not crazy are usually the crazy one, or the ones that can easily be perceived as crazy, you know? He passed his citizenship test. That's funny. Hey, Candy Links, thank you so much for the channel membership. I appreciate that. Thank you. Zach Feifel, thank you for the $5 super chat. Jean was perfect in this episode. I'd say Miles' performance was on par with Felix. I think Miles is a phenomenal voice actor, period. Like, I don't think that there's any performance that he's ever done that I felt like he wasn't, like, at his best. You know? And even when I think of, like, old school, like, Volume 1 Jean, I feel like that's how Jean was supposed to be. Like, this very, I don't know, just not very put together individual, overly wholesome, overly naive and innocent, like the complete antithesis of what he is now. And I think Miles just nailed it across the board. But yeah, Miles did a great job. Miles did a phenomenal job, especially when you notice, like, the inflection of Jean being older. So it still sounds like Jean, but it sounds like, you know, like, there's, like, I feel like, you know, he's older based on the performance. So it's not like he's forcing the character or anything like that. So yeah, I think Miles is phenomenal with his performance of Jean. But like I said, they Team RWBY and company obviously understand that Jean's not all there. He's giving them, like, a to-do list, for Christ's sake, and it's obviously conflicting with their objective of wanting to get home. And there's one thing in this scene that I want to emphasize, which is going to go back to RWBY's development by the end of the episode. Think about everything Team RWBY is talking about. Think about everything that Weiss, Blake, and Yang are talking about around the table, right? They're talking about Jean. They're talking about Jean's mental state. They're talking about how Jean is not trustworthy. He's not dependable. He's not all there. that makes them question his leadership skills, that makes them question whether or not they can rely on him. And wouldn't that be interesting if RWBY is listening to what they're saying and she's applying it to herself? Because RWBY is not all there mentally. RWBY is the only character here that they don't seem to be asking for her input on. She's the only one in the table, in the group, that is kind of applying herself at like, well, I'm a team leader, just like Jean. I'm going through stuff in a different way of Jean, but still. And if Jean is unfit to lead, what does that mean for me? And I actually think that's what she was going to say. Right? Because they're talking, like, Weiss is like, well, who does that leave us with? You know, like, if Jean's unreliable, we need a guide. We need someone to help us, but we have no one. And it's almost kind of like they're disregarding their fucking teammate that's sitting right next to them. And she literally says, well, if that's how you guys feel, and then she gets cut off. I actually think she was going to say, if that's how you feel about Jean, then it seems like I'm in the same camp. I think she was going to say something to that effect. But, and I don't know how often people notice this, but RWBY has had very little time to really kind of express what's on her mind at the moment. And I think that's by design of the volume itself. Like, RWBY snapping at the end of the episode is also based on, like, people are like, oh, RWBY needs to express herself more. RWBY needs to, like, open up a bit more. Like, things like this happen constantly. Whenever she's about to say something, either there's another distraction that needs to take precedent, that takes priority, or someone else cuts in and, like, interrupts her. And even in this episode, it happens a couple of times, you know? So I think her outburst in this episode is just like a moment of frustration that she felt. This is the only way they're going to be able, this is the only way I'm going to be heard, is if I just literally just fucking pop off, you know? Whoa! Hey, we got William Pendragon. Thank you for the $100 super chat. Welcome back, my friend. Hearts broken. Oh, man. This is the blast from the past, this episode. The ending flood. Hearts broken, minds fractured. Pain shall cling to the oncoming path. Even so, we must persevere for all those lost, lest our sacrifices become vain. May they find the strength to move forward. This has been the ghost of Private William Pendragon of the 31st Brigade. I'm pretty sure there was a William Pendragon paper pleaser amongst this crowd as well. Oh, man. That's so funny. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Addie Soldier. But yeah, like, again, I love, and here's the biggest thing. Little is the only one that seems to notice RWBY's, like, mental reservation. She is pissed. She is not about this scene. She's not about listening to whatever's going on. And Little is the only one that's like, I don't think she's all right. I don't think she's good. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something off about Ruby Rose. And it just seems like everybody else has other things going on. And yeah, I do want to reserve getting into this because I really want to get into it by the end. So I want to get through all of the other scenes first. That one shot of Little eating and then looking over is the cutest thing ever. Literally the cutest thing I've ever seen in RWBY is Little. And it's just, look at that. It's so adorable. Little is literally the best thing that's happened to RWBY in a long time, man. Literally. Yeah, there you go. I literally am like, my brain is breaking trying to make this pun work. Jesus Christ. Anyways, let's move on, okay? I fumbled that, guys. I was trying so hard to just like not spontaneously combust in that moment. I was like, literally? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. Long story short, RWBY probably feels very neglected. You know how I feel RWBY feels? RWBY wants her teammates to reach out to her, but she doesn't want to tell them. Like, I've felt that way growing up too, like where you're upset that people don't notice that you're upset. And so you double down on those feelings in the hopes that you'll say something without saying something. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm upset. I'm pissed off. I'm angry. I want my friends who supposedly give a shit about me to notice. But if I ask them to notice, then that kind of defeats the purpose. It's almost kind of like you're only noticing because I'm asking you to. You know, it's literally a cry for attention. And it's not being fulfilled. And so she just doubles down. I actually think that that's partially why she's not like, and again, they're not doing it because it's like, well, you know, they just like, she'll be fine. You know what I mean? It's RWBY. She always bounces back. Nothing can really be bothering her if she's not saying anything's bothering her, right? But like RWBY's always been that way. So it's also not necessarily their fault for not following up on those cues. You know, I don't know. And she didn't ask to be the leader. She's not cut out to deal with all the stuff that's happening. And so to an extent, like, I feel like she's also suffering from coping for like all of the things that have happened on her call as well. Like similar to Jean, like they're both leaders. And this is the first time they're really kind of processing their failures and their shortcomings and the things that they usually are built up upon by their teammates or by their peers or whatnot. And now no one's really there to build them up when they need it. And this is the result of that. So yeah, I think that that's kind of the process of what's going on here. And then we get the explanation of the actual events of the Ever After, the tree from the Afterins' perspective, the process of ascending, reincarnating, rebirth, technically speaking, and everything else in between. One thing that I will say here, it's very subtle, right? It's a very subtle thing that I noticed after my reaction when I rewatched the episode. The Afterin, this purple Afterin here is talking to them, and they mention how, oh, we've been done with our task for quite some time, and we're hoping to ascend to go to the tree so that way we can be made to do something else. Notice how the Afterin brings them, they're on a constant loop where the way I look at this scene is like, they are done with their task so much so that they are bringing food even when they haven't finished their food. It's like this Afterin literally has no other purpose. So they are stuck doing the same thing over and over and over again because Jean won't let them ascend. You know, like they bring the first appetizers here and then they leave and then they come back and they're bringing more appetizers, but the previous ones aren't even finished yet because they literally have nothing to do. Which again is just kind of like torture in a way. Like Jean's not letting them live their natural process of the Ever After, which is creating like this weird like interference with the natural order of things. And Jean's doing it because like the burden is like, well, if I let them go, then I just have to face the things that I'm afraid to face. And so he's just putting that baggage on them to deal with living every single day, even if they don't like it, because you don't know what you want, because I know what's best for you. You know what I mean? And so it's, you know, I feel really bad for these things. I feel really bad for these Afterins. And when we saw this, I was like, okay, Jean, like this is actually not it. Like I wanted to have faith in Jean. I wanted to believe and trust that he wasn't actually as far off as he was. But after it was like, oh, we want to ascend, but our hero doesn't want that, and he doesn't trust us to want that. I felt like there was more there, but like, yeah, it's like, again, it gave me like big Ironwood vibes. So much so that these things are literally getting creative with the process of rebirth. They're like, okay, we called to the tree, which I guess the leaves kind of confirm that the leaves, or like ingesting the leaves or whatever, is an aspect of ascending. We saw that with the herbalist, but it's kind of confirmed now with these leaves. And Jean was like, nope, no can do. And then they're like, breaking free from our physical form. and that was advice from the wisest of the paper pleasers. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Breaking free from our physical, right? Because the cat mentioned too, like, if they complete their tasks, they call to the tree and then they go back. Or if they break, aka if they die, they go back. And so like Jean is like, you're not gonna complete your tasks. If you complete your task, you're not gonna get called back to the tree. And if you try to do that upon yourself, I'm just gonna prevent it at every turn. So it's like, this was a pretty distressing episode. Like, I know they're like cute little star people, but like putting this in like a realistic setting, or like a realistic, like, replace the stars with actual like humans, like Team RWBY and company, like, but Afterans. Like, thank God these are star people and it's not as graphic of like, hey, these creatures are trying to kill themselves to go back to the tree because Jean is making it that difficult for them to just live their life. You know? It's creative, but it's so dark. You know? And the juxtaposition is like, oh, but they're cute little star people. You know? So it's also like freaking creepy too, because it's like you're like crossing like super cute and wholesome with super dark and serious. You know? And it's like walking the balance of it. The balancing act of this is really well done. You know, like they're walking out into the freaking thunderstorm with a metal rod. It's like, holy shit. But yeah, so it makes me feel a bit more comfortable to know that the cat actually might have been telling the truth. The cat doesn't have the full story. Neither does Jean have the full story. And I'm so glad Yang said that, because that's what we were talking about last week, which was like, the cat was like, I don't know what happened to Alex and Lewis. Jean was like, oh, they went up there and only one of them made it back. But you also don't know who made it back, which one of them made it back, and how that happened. So like, they both just don't have the full story. And that's enough for them. That's enough for Jean to just be like, yeah, I don't trust it. But also, he wants Team RWBY to just take him at his word without him having the full story either. You know? The cat was omitting. I understand the cat didn't tell them what they wanted to tell them. Like, the cat withheld information that would have changed the perspective of the story that they were understanding. But like, that might have just been in the cat's nature of just being curious, you know? A catchy apologist. But yeah, when they mention merging with the tree, Oscar's motif starts playing, since he would know a thing or two about merging. Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. I haven't picked up on like motifs in a really long time, especially this volume. I feel like I'm so removed from RWBY thus far. I mean, that would make sense though, right? Oscar and Ozpin merging. So that seems pretty appropriate. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, Jean just isn't all there necessarily. I know obviously he's hurt by the fact, right? He's not all there. He understands that, but he has to keep like he kind of just has to like reinforce to himself that what he's doing is the best case scenario, just because like if not, then he's gonna have to confront the things that he's been kind of avoiding this entire time, or like having to remember the things that happened. And again, this right here just gave me like, Jean, you literally look like the villain right there. When he's like, first off, in front of your own children, you're calling them stupid. That's not nice. You know, they felt that, they heard that, and they responded. And I didn't like that at all. I was like, damn, bro, these star people are just living their best life. They're just trying to do what they're programmed to do, and you're making it difficult. And that's another thing too. Like, the Afterins existed before Jean ever got here, but like he's so dependent on them, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to like he's dependent on them for his own mental well-being, and that's why. And then you couple that with like wanting to protect them, wanting to have his own purpose, or new purpose in a way, despite knowing that that halts his progress of getting out of here. He could have been back to Remnant by now even, but you know, it's like all of this stuff compounding on top of his mental, that I feel like that's ultimately what's landed him in this position, and why it makes it so difficult for Team RWBY to kind of see eye to eye, because it's like, you know, it's like, well, you're directly conflicting with us making even more progress if we have to babysit these people for however long. So I actually think they were born after Jean arrived to help him learn, to help him to grow from loss and not stagnate in grief. That's potentially true too, actually. Like what if Afterins prior ascended and their new purpose was to help with Jean, who was already here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, these paper pleasers were created for the purpose of helping Jean, but in doing that, he kind of prevented anyone from progressing at that point, you know? So there's like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's like like the tree is waiting. The tree's like, okay, we're kind of short on some Afterins. I was expecting a surplus of Afterins at this point, and Jean is just stockpiling. Jean is just hoarding all of these Afterins, and none of them are being able to ascend. And the tree's just like, what's going on? There's like a freaking ascension debt right now. Yeah, Jean's a scalper. Oh man, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, bro, imagine. Oh man, but yeah, so it's just they're at a crossroads, both of them, like, or all of them rather. They're just kind of all. And again, this is Jean's coping mechanism, and it's understandable why they see the situation and they just realize, like, well, if we don't do something, things are never going to get better, and we can't rely on Jean to put that effort in. So, you know, they have to like step on his toes a little bit. And then Neo. What the fuck is Neo doing this volume? Anyone want to ask me? Anyone care to answer in the chat? Like, why is Neo in the Ever After? Why did they bring this woman to the Ever After? Bro, there's 3 episodes left. What is she doing? What is the purpose? What is the debate? Like, what is the grand master plan for Neapolitan in the Ever After? Did they put her here? They're like, okay, well, we need a threat. We need a way to give Team RWBY and company a threat to fight. So, is Neo just here to like enhance the threat of the Ever After? Right? With the Afterins and stuff like that? Because you'd have to think, if Neo was never here, there would only ever have been one Jabberwocker, which is less threatening than like the 10 that are around. So she's almost kind of like a plot device at the moment for like the threat level of the Afterins, because we now know that her clones are basically the real deal. But I don't know what this means for Neo, like herself, like as a character. Like what we've only seen like we've seen like 2 shots of her and that's it. Also, no one tell Cal this, because she will literally, she'll get on her soapbox. I know it. But I'm just wondering, man, because it's like, if I said it in my reaction, I cannot foresee 3 episodes in the Ever After. I just can't. Unless these next 3 episodes are like half-hour apiece, like I just can't see it. Or maybe I'm expecting more than what's actually going to happen, but you know, that's an even bigger concern. But yeah, so we get a cool fight sequence, which is great. RWBY is still down in the dumps. No one seems to notice, which is unfortunate, and that's just gonna build up and get worse and worse. But you got the little Afterins running for their lives. I love that one shot of Jean. He's like, I'm not letting them down. He doesn't even look. He's just like, let's get this, bro. I thought that was so freaking badass of him. I'm like, Jean, I know you're going through it right now, but you are the fucking coolest thing in this show right now. I'm just saying. So I thought that was like the setup for the fight was just pretty dope. I really liked that shot there. And what's funny too, like I guess the transition into the actual action, I labeled these 2 shots White Knight and Bumblebee. Like Jean and Weiss teamed up for half of the fight, and then Blake and Yang teamed up for the second half, which just left RWBY just kind of big chillin', just like, this is my first fight since the fall of Atlas. And I'm actually kind of annoyed that I found Crescent Rose, because now I have to fight when I don't want to. Yeah, she's 5th wheeling. Oh, God. But I loved it. The music, too, so good, man. I loved the music for this. Went really well with the fight. Casey's been like killing it. Her and her band have been like doing such a good job with like the different like musical approaches, like whether it's the background music or like action or even non-action. I really, really liked it. I also find it very interesting that Jean still continues to use his broken sword over like getting it fixed, or I don't even know if he can get it fixed. I don't even know if the freaking blacksmith is an actual thing, or if it's just a figment of RWBY's like mental connection to the Ever After. But yeah, oh God, and like Weiss is finally summoning again, her full White Knight summon, which was so freaking cool to see again. She only used the sword in episode 3, but to see the full thing was such a blast from the past. I feel like it's been such a while since we've seen that. And like her combinations, like she has some really good synergy with Jean here too, using her glyphs. Still no freaking time dilation. Bro. I'm so mad. Can you guys tell that I'm not over it yet? I feel like Jean, bro. I'm like, bro, it's been 10 years and I'm still not over it. Ah! I'm so mad, dude. I'm so mad. I'm so pissed. I really would love, I'm gonna start getting into like the RWBY bingo cards. And every year I'm just gonna have time dilation on every single one. And I'm just never gonna get a bingo. I'm just never gonna get a bingo, dude. Don't worry. I'm just like Cial. I'm just gonna be coping. I'm gonna cope harder and harder every year until I have a Ruby Rose moment. Until I freaking Mick freaking lose it, dude. I'm gonna have my Ruby Rose villain origin story. I literally combined the words together. I'm so furious. I just created a new fucking concept. I'm so angry that we have not seen time dilation in like 9 years. And you know what the worst part is? When we do get time dilation, it's gonna be for like 5 seconds. It's like we're gonna see it, and it's literally gonna be like, yeah, you know, it's in the blink of an eye because it's time dilation. Get it? Yeah, my village and arc. My hatred runs so deep, I freaking created a new word. Oh my god. I'm so done with this freaking... They just keep Weiss out of combat until you're ready to bring this ability back at this point. Because I'm gonna be like a broken record, dude. Totally a human. Thank you for the $20 super chat. I remember when people didn't like Jean or the White Knight ship, but now that he's daddy Jean, everyone's calling him the GOAT. I mean, I've always liked Jean. Jean's always been in like my top 5 favorite characters. I saw so much of myself in Jean back in volume 1. Because I used to get bullied like he did. And I was like, yo, you know what? Jean reminds me of a less handsome, less confident, less secure, lesser version of myself. Back when I was in like middle school, high school. So like I literally attached myself to Jean as early as volume 1. Now, it's like now I'm doing jury duty. I got taxes to pay. I'm getting old. I'm getting gray hairs. Like now I relate to Jean even more now. I'm like, bro, now I'm an adult. It's all my best years are behind me. It's all downhill from here. I'm like, bro, I've never related to Jean Arc more. Oh man. You know, now I'm getting old. I'm wearing glasses now. My eyesight's going. My hearing's going. Like I got the beard. You know what? I can't relate more to a character than Jean right now. Phil Swift, thank you for the super chat, my guy. Now that I think about it, Neo should be thankful that Crow or Winter aren't in the Ever After, LOL. Wait, why? Why Crow and Winter specifically? Am I missing something? Oh, are you saying because like they would make quick work of her like her clones? Yeah, that is true. I mean, the only reason Winter can fly. That's the only reason Winter's not in the Ever After right now, because she flew through the fucking portal and didn't grab Jean. And I'm never not gonna be upset about it. I'm never not gonna be annoyed by that. I'm like, bro, that was so not believable. And she's like, yeah, Jean, just use your legs. That's fine. She couldn't? Bro, she could have. I don't want to hear that. One-way ticket? She could have grabbed him and, like, she could have actually just, like, freaking picked him up and flew through the portal with him. She turned around and was like, wait, no. And it's like, come on. Come on now. The plot demanded that Jean fell at that point. A rare Winter L. Winter vibed too hard. She forgot about him. Yeah, she was like, yo, fuck this blonde kid. I'm mourning for my sister. I'm so pissed. Yeah. But yeah, loved the fighting. Just to kind of get back on track here. I also love that Jean still has gravity dust in his shield. I was not expecting that, but the combo of like, I love how Weiss grabbed his sword and then used her glyph to maintain like the gravity and just reverse threw it back to him. I think they have really good like chemistry when it comes to fighting. Like they're like, even though like they're just like wildly different individuals in terms, like Weiss is just a great support. And I just loved how she just kind of returned that, and then he just used his shield. I wasn't expecting the shield out of it. I thought he was just gonna grab it and do some cool like sword techniques and whatnot. So I loved how they kind of combined Weiss and Jean there. like with their fighting style. Blake and Yang are literally relationship goals at this point. I actually think them two being official made them better fighters. Like, it's so baffling, but it's just like, bro, like, how are y'all just so in sync with each other? It's kind of ridiculous. But, I loved it. I loved the fighting. I loved the action. This was very, this one felt like this one kind of felt more intense. Like, I understand, like, episode 3 was kind of like the first fight, the first action scene of the volume, but I also felt like there were really no stakes in it. It's just like we're fighting a bunch of fucking wooden toy soldiers or whatever, like little toy pieces. You know, it's like, what can they actually do? But like the Jabberwocker at the very least feels a bit more threatening, especially since they were fighting to keep the Afterins alive. Whereas before, Team RWBY and company were just playing a board game. But I loved the Super Saiyan moment, like Yang. Here's another thing, too. I might be a little late to this realization, or this could just be something that I just headcanoned myself. But I've always been curious about Yang's semblance, right? Because how we've always seen her semblance, or how her semblance is described, is that her semblance is reliant on her taking damage and then dishing it back. But with this episode in particular, I kind of wonder if, like, so Yang's fighting stance is like this right here, like she punches her fists together. But I actually am now wondering if she's self-activating her semblance by doing that. Like, if she's punching her fists, she's inflicting pain on herself to then activate her semblance. So she gets like a buff going into a fight. I actually thought about that going into this, like rewatching that. I was like, why did Yang just activate? Like, why did Yang just go Super Saiyan like that? Her eyes turned red, her hair went like flames. And then I was like, Yang always does this whenever she like activates her semblance. So I was wondering like if that's just a natural way of her just getting like a self buff. Cause, yeah, I just noticed it so often, but it was very apparent here. I'm like, I was like, I was like, she has to take damage for her semblance to activate. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe she's always taken, maybe that's how she does it, you know? So yeah, I don't know if that's a headcanon thing or if that's accurate, but I'm taking credit. That's what it is now. I'm calling it. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool. And like the effect of it is so sick. I feel like every time we see Yang activate her semblance, it gets better and better. Like episode 3, her hair was literally fire. Like it was just literally like just flames. And then like that shot, it was super brief, but it was so freaking cool. And then like this right here, like the flare, like them two just kind of like Yang throwing Blake through the legs of the Jabberwocker was great, because like they obviously want to get on both sides of it. So I thought that I don't know, I just thought it was really well coordinated, at least for both of them. That would make sense. Yeah, I think it would be, I think that'd be cool. Like it would make sense, at least, you know. Lythan1, thank you for the super chat. I hated what RWBY said to Jean. He's been so desperate to protect anything because all his life he lost people he loved because they were weak. That was the cruelest thing she's ever did. I understand. Like, it's definitely a moment of like, you can't take back the words you say. You can't take back saying something like that. But RWBY also wasn't in the best headspace to say something either. So it's not like, you know what I mean? Like when you're hurting, you want someone else to feel how you're feeling. And unfortunately it came out that way, where Jean said the things he said to her and vice versa. I do think it was a little out of pocket for RWBY to go at Jean in that way, because she doesn't have any perspective of what it's like for him to be here. So him retaliating the way he did was warranted. But like for her to her teammates, it was a little bit more understandable why she feels like her feelings have been invalidated this entire time. But you can't rationalize how she's feeling, right? Like, you can't, like, she's just not in the right headspace. She didn't say that to mean it. She didn't say that because she meant it. She said that because it's like, my feelings are being invalidated, but we have to mourn these afterins that aren't even like really dead. They literally just reincarnated. You know what I mean? Like, it's just her taking shots at the situation because it takes away from what she needs. You know? And unfortunately, she bunched John in that too, which was unfair. But yeah. Let me see. C Mill, thank you for the super chat. I'm still not 100% sure how Blake's semblance works. Does she like teleport and leave a shadow behind? How does she ever get hit then? It's literally just like a shadow clone. It's almost kind of like she can use it as like it's like a misdirection. Like, you're looking at this one when she's really over here, but it's just kind of, it's almost kind of like illusory. Like, it's like illusionary in a way. Yeah. Obviously, she needs to activate it for it to happen, but it's not like an automatic, like, deflect. She can still get hit. It's just how she utilizes it, and if she has, like, the aura to use it, and things like that. It's literally shadow clone. If you've ever watched, like, Naruto, I think it's funny because, like, it's like, what if you've never seen Naruto? Do you even know, like, does anyone even know what a shadow clone is? But yeah. But yeah, overall, thought the fight sequence was really great. Ruby's moment here was the straw that broke the camel's back, I think. For, like, just in general, her unwillingness and just, like, she's just not equipped for a fight after Atlas. And then I didn't even, like, this is just kind of like a mental trip. This was so fucked up to put her through. And I don't know if this is like I don't know if this is the effect of the Jabberwocker too, because this Jabberwocker was about to eat her, and she's not even like an after, and so it's like, what the fuck would have happened to Ruby if she got eaten? Like, I don't know if it just eats her and she dies, like if it would have eaten anything else, you know? But that was so freaking trippy. I was not expecting a moment like that, and again, Ruby's mind's playing tricks on her, on top of the fact that it's just stress levels are likely through the fucking roof for her. But like, yeah, like it was originally, it just eats afterins, or afterins don't ascend if it gets eaten, but it's like, it's also trying to eat Ruby. So it's like, oh my God, like, what the hell? Yeah. And I also realized too during my reaction that this is the first fight that she's getting into since Beacon. I'm sorry, Beacon, since Atlas, I should say. This is the first fight she's gotten into since Atlas. And to be honest, it kind of seems like she's relieved, or she's been like relieved this entire time to not have Crescent Rose, because she hasn't had to do any of like the heavy fighting, any of the heavy lifting. And now that she has her weapon back, now that she's expected to perform, she can't. And it's also kind of set the party a little, everyone's a little unsettled, even Jean. Like, Jean's also like, Jean came at her like, oh, I know you don't give a shit about my village, but you can at least help your friends. And he actually noticed in that one shot where he goes to pick up his sword, he looks over and he sees Ruby just standing there, and then he gets back into the fight. So he's noticing, but obviously he's not a mind reader. He can't tell like what's going on with her or why she's reacting that way. Even when he went to go give her the weapon, she was just like, nah, I'm good. And like, that's like shock. It's like, I just gave you this weapon back and she doesn't even want it, you know? And it's just, it's Neo. It's a clone of Neo. Like, Neo actually showed up. Like, she did the finger guns thing and then she disappeared. And it's just like, what is your purpose? Why are you here? Are you just the freaking monster generator? Are you just here to create conflict through the Jabberwockers? You know? I feel like, honestly, I'm more compelled I would believe it more if they were just, if Neo was here just to tempt Cal at this rate. Because it's like, I feel like every week she's getting debated. Every week she's doubling down on the Neo copium. And every week she's putting on that freaking clown makeup. You know? But hey, she loves the character. She loves the character. I will say this though, they kind of made Neo seem like super important in your face in the intro. Like Neo's got so many shots in the intro and we just haven't seen any of that. And I'm like, bro, you got 3 episodes left. Like, what are you doing with this character? So I don't know. It's the funny thing too, or like I guess the transition from this scene to like the big scene that I think we're gonna spend a significant amount of time talking about is the last moment that happened here. So first off, I would actually say that this is like one of the moments where like the first time RWBY has gotten like attention from her team is when her life is in danger. And immediately after saving her, Yang is like, RWBY, are you okay? And then the tower. Immediately, the second it's like, okay, attention on RWBY. Oh, something important's actually happening. Like, I feel like that was the straw that broke the camel's back for her, where it's like she had it and then they took it away from her. And that's happened a lot more in this volume than people are aware of. And it's by design, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, that's a way of poking and prodding at RWBY. It's like, hey, here's this thing that is going to happen. Oh, no, it's not. Somebody else actually has our attention. Oh, here's something that's going to happen. Oh, no, we have something important to deal with. Just, you know, put that on hold real quick. And it's just like, now RWBY Rose. Oh, you know what this reminds me of, actually? Oh, my God. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of RWBY, the when Vanessa Kimball's like, I have the speaking ball. It's now RWBY's turn to talk, and everyone else has to shut up and listen to what she has to say, which is ironic because Lindsay also voices Kimball in RWBY. I just realized that. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I was like, yeah, now it's RWBY's time to get what she wants to say out there. Oh, man. Yeah, that's actually really funny. But, yeah, I don't... The first thing I thought of with this scene, bro... The first thing literally the freaking second I saw it, I was like, bro, they did not just pull an Atlas all over again, dude. They did not just take Jean back 20 fucking years. They're like, hey, Jean, remember all that stuff you were trying to forget? Well, here it is. In the flesh. Welcome back to welcome back to 2019, my friend. Or 2020. Welcome back to 2020. Welcome back to pre-COVID era. Actually, that was during COVID. What am I saying? I think that's 2020, 2021, actually. But Atlas in general. It's like, hey, we're taking you back to where it all started. And, yeah. That wasn't the best. That wasn't nice. Yeah, we just saw Paper Atlas get flooded. I will say, though, it was the complete opposite of what I thought was going to happen when the episode started. I thought this place was going to burn. I thought this place was going to go up in flames because, like, Jean and the fire surrounding him in the intro and the place is made of paper. And I was like, oh, this is easy. This is a perfect setup for a forest fire. And they were like, no, we're just going to flood the place again. They really got your boy in the first half. I'm not going to lie about that, dude. They really got me. They caught me slipping. Damn, I guess you can say Jean really is washed up now. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. We'll go with that. Oh, man. I hate it here. I hate it. They really were like, yo, Atlas, again, time to remember, my dude. Do you think RWBY will meet Neo in the next episode? I do. I think that would actually be fucking goated if RWBY just tells Neo to fuck off. Like, I didn't kill your friend. All right, you stupid ice cream person. Go melt somewhere else because I ain't trying to deal with that bullshit right now. Like, I would love for RWBY to just go off on Neo. Like really just fucking say everything you want to say to her. It's like, I don't even know why you're here. Why are you following me? All right, I didn't kill Torchwick. That shit was like 5 years ago. Get over it. You know, I would love for her to just freaking, I don't know. Like, RWBY just has no fucks to give. And I just feel like that would just be an interesting interaction. You know? She's like, Neapolitan, you're on thin fucking ice right now. And I'm not just saying that because you're ice cream. You know? I think it would be great. I would really want that, actually. I hope that this is like the beginning of more of unhinged RWBY. Zach Feifel, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thank you. Neo feels kind of pointless. I really hope that RT kills her off. Her character motivations are just not that interesting anymore. I've grown more and more tired of her since volume 6. Well, I mean, realistically, she only came back during that volume, technically. So, like, I mean, that was the volume that she really kind of came back into prominence. But, yeah, I mean, since then, she's just kind of been like a lackey. I don't think her true motivations are settled yet. I think what they've been trying to do is establish, you know, like the song One Thing. I think they're trying to build her up to that point, because right now she's just kind of doing what she's told. She's like, okay, let me just follow Cinder and then get to RWBY because that's the easy way out. I don't think she's identified like her ploy or her motivation to actually go after Cinder now. I think that's what her true motivation is, and up to this point, it's been kind of like a distraction. Because I think of like the song One Thing, and she has not followed through on anything regarding that. You know, unless all of that is based on RWBY, which I highly doubt, because, you know, even looking at that song, it seems very much like it's talking about Cinder. So yeah, I feel like there might be still more of Neo. She just has to kind of realize that RWBY is not, she needs to just kind of pull her head out of her ass, really, because she's just kind of tunnel visioned, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it, but she obviously is gonna trust the people that Roman followed, or Roman was kind of led into following. And she doesn't really have that perspective. We do. Obviously, we know the situation, but she doesn't. So, what happened to the dozens of people that fell from Cinder's last attack? Shouldn't they be here? Was Alex and her brother from... So, those people died. So, RWBY has already mentioned it, but those people died on impact of that explosion. So, like, you could say, well, where are their corpses? Like, who's to say that their corpses made it to the actual ever after, or if they just fucking dissolved into nothingness or whatever? Because, yeah, that's why there are no people there. Like, no living, only the living made it to the ever after, being Team RWBY and company. But, yeah, they did clarify that, like, those people who fell were hit by Cinder's initial explosion. They don't have aura. They don't have a way of protecting themselves from that. So they just fell. They died on impact, essentially. Gloomy, thank you for the super chat. Watch RWBY and Neo get on the confession bridge, and RWBY's side is the only one that reaches the land for Wait, what happened? Wait, hold on. Okay. So, like, the confession, so, like, another Punderstorm is what you're saying. So, RWBY and Neo have go to, the confession bridge for the Punderstorm, and, RWBY is the one that makes it to the center after explaining what happened to Roman. That would be interesting because RWBY is on the bridge for that in the opening. I feel like that might have just been their way of not spoiling Bumblebee because that's where that scene took place. But who knows? Like it could double up, you know? Like if because Neo and RWBY now are at a point of, they're at an impasse. They're at a crossroads because RWBY has her perspective. Neo has her perspective. Neo thinks RWBY's lying. Neo thinks RWBY's lying. RWBY's probably like, I don't know what the fuck you want from me. I've tried convincing you. Even all the way up until their final confrontation in the last episode. So I actually wouldn't mind. I would actually think a Punderstorm coming for them two would be kind of interesting. You know, I think that would be really interesting. User account 333, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I want RWBY to verbally rip into Neo so hard she would be rendered speechless if she wasn't already mute. I love that comment. That's such a well thought out comment. I approve. Yeah, I want RWBY to just go ham. I want RWBY to go so fucking ham, dude. Theory, one thing is a song about the Ruby Rose we're gonna get after this volume ends. I don't think so. I think Neo needs a song at least for herself. But yeah, so let's take away the okay, I feel like Jean is just living yeah, see? Now you know how these afterins feel, all right? Living in a constant loop. I feel like Jean has witnessed the death of his friends. I'm just stuck on this freaking flood loop between Atlas and the Ever After. It's like, all right, Jean, now you know how those afterins felt. They had to find a way out. Also, foreshadowing, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost like this was ripped directly from the intro or something. But I noticed this. This reminded me of my peak volume 4 Arthur Fist meme days for the OGs who were here back then. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh my god. When your friends don't let you get a word in and you've had enough. Oh man. The Arthur meme, bro. It's too good. It's applicable in so many situations. Hawk, thank you for the super chat. With the intro, their own Punderstorm impasse could actually end up being a chat at the table for tea, a la Alice running into and meeting the Mad Hatter. Yeah, RWBY running off to do whatever or go wherever. I feel like that's the perfect opportunity for her to run into Neo. Given that Neo just kind of caused that whole fiasco that caused that moment for them just now. Like, Neo's just kind of living lavish. She's big chillin'. She's just, like, watching them tear each other apart, and she probably doesn't even realize it. Because, like, a lot of the stuff that's going on is just everything's super internal for everyone, and Neo's just kind of, like, who knows what she's been doing. I wouldn't be surprised if we get, like, a Neo perspective of what she's been doing these last few episodes. Almost kind of like Jean, like how we got Jean's perspective after he landed, and it kind of just did like a super cut of his experience leading up to the present. So I wonder if they would do something like that for Neo, and then it cuts to what happened after, like what her clones have been up to and what she's been up to ever since. Yeah, Neo perspective. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I wonder if we're gonna see a Roman Torchwick clone. I feel like if we're never gonna get another moment like this, I really hope that they do it at least once. You know? I don't know how many of her clones died in that fight. Like, there were a bunch of Jabberwockers, and I think all of them were destroyed. So between the first Jabberwocker that they killed in the last episode, and then I think 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 of them have been killed off so far. Either 5 or 6 of them, which means that there should be 3 to 4 left. not including the original Neo. Can she regenerate clones? I'm pretty sure she can, but I'm going off of the assumption that she's not making more. That the ones that we have are the ones that she originally made off of her original 10 clone, off of like the original 9 clones plus herself. So yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the main event, which is ironically at the end of the episode. This was so cathartic. You know what this reminded me of? This reminded me of this. This reminded me of Arthur Watts' outlash and like Arthur Watts' complete savagery towards Cinder. That's what it reminded me of, like RWBY saying to her teammates and Jean saying to RWBY the things that like I just want these characters to have some drama with each other, okay? I'm sick and tired of everyone just being buddy-buddy, freaking Boy Scouts with each other, just having nothing but good, positive vibes and keeping everything vanilla. It's like, it's so, like, I need some freaking angst. God damn it, okay? I expect it from the villains. Watts fucking hates Cinder's guts, and I hate Cinder as well. And I'm it's no stranger. Like, I've actually been pretty dissatisfied with Cinder as a character, and like Watts says to Cinder what we've been saying about Cinder for years, so it felt so therapeutic to just hear it, to hear Cinder get doused by a character that was like the representation of the fandom, and then to have that same thing reflected for Jean and even RWBY to her teammates was just so, it was so cathartic, but it was also super fucking shocking, because it's like we've never seen, it almost felt like a completely different character took over, and like we have never seen RWBY talk this way to anybody, right? We've never seen her talk to Weiss or Yang or Blake that way. And even the way she was talking, like the inflection in her voice and how just done she was. And even just the things she was saying, because I'll be honest, where is the lie? Can someone point out to me in 4K where the lie was that RWBY said to her teammates? Because I can explain to you, I can show you in grave detail every single point where RWBY's emotions were kind of invalidated, downplayed, ignored, or not prioritized over something else throughout this volume so far, right? In episode 2, and here's another thing too, I'm not creating this conversation as a way of saying, look how bad these characters are, look how Weiss didn't even prioritize RWBY. Like, everyone's going through their own shit, right? Everyone needs a moment to vent. They need it just as much as RWBY needs it. But it's the fact that nobody at any point throughout the volume put in that effort. And I want to address something that I said earlier, because I actually do want to reinforce my change of opinion. Before this episode came out, I actually said that I kind of feel like RWBY is partially not to blame, but it's a 50-50 split, right? RWBY is not expressing herself, is not opening up, is not communicating how she's feeling to her teammates. And so you can't necessarily get on them for not following through to kind of touch base with her. But after this episode, I actually changed my mind. And the reason I changed my mind is because Yang, the most Yang has done is, hey, are you okay? The most Blake has done is, maybe we shouldn't think about that right now. And the most Weiss has done is, I know Penny and you were close. That was a lot to handle. I actually think they've been putting in the bare minimum effort. Like, for example, RWBY passing out and then waking up. Yang was like, hey, are you all right? And then Ruby's like, she completely disregarded. She's like, she attacked me while we were falling. If I was Yang, I would have been like, hey, I need to make sure you're good. Because this isn't like you. You know what I mean? But like, I also understand that everyone has their own stuff. But the thing too is that everyone else seems to have also handled in some way, shape, or form the things that have been like going on with them. And so like, from RWBY's perspective, it's like things can't really be all that bad between Yang, like internally with Yang, if she has time to sort her. Like, that's why I feel like when she mentioned like the whole sorting your feelings thing out, it's like, wow, things must be great for you if you also have time to sort out your feelings with Blake and like establish that you're in a relationship and you can be happy and be content and hold hands and smile and laugh and all of that. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I felt like that was RWBY's way of just saying, like, you're good. Like, you are so good, in fact, that, like, it doesn't even matter what I'm going through because it seems like you have your shit together. And for Weiss, like, Weiss was talking about, you know, Atlas, and she lost her home, and she doesn't have a family. She doesn't have a place to go back to. And it reminds her of Beacon, and she put all of that on RWBY in the first episode, which kind of gave RWBY no room to kind of express how she's feeling. Because as the team leader, it's like, well, if my teammate is confiding in me, I have to be strong for her, which means I can't let Weiss know that I feel just as bad or I'm just as down as she is. And I feel like, and that was like the first instance of it, which is like Weiss confiding her feelings to RWBY meant that RWBY had to sacrifice how she was feeling to be strong for her team. And then in the forest, when the cat brought up Salem and brought up, oh, how are you guys gonna beat Salem? How many relics does she need to destroy the world? Like, RWBY had that moment of just like hesitance, like, oh my God, I have to think about this. And then Blake's like, don't think about that right now, which is understandable, right? It's like, well, you know, that's obviously a bridge we have to cross when we come to it. We don't want to deviate from what our current goal is. But at the same time, you're basically telling RWBY to not you're telling RWBY to just basically repress how she's feeling. And that's how she's going to handle it. And that's how she took it, because she was like, you know, we got to stay positive, smiles all around. I'm not allowed to be upset. I'm not allowed to feel a certain way about how things are going or how things have gone or my failures or whatever, because I have to be the one that bears the burden when I never asked to be the leader. And so I think it's a combination of just taking for granted how RWBY has always been, while simultaneously just kind of not putting in more of an effort to show her that they're thinking about her. You know, it goes back to earlier in the episode, like I said before, like the way that they were talking about Jean applied to RWBY. And RWBY was probably going to, like, before she got cut off, she was probably going to explain that. And it's the fact that none of them acknowledged that. You know? You know, and I completely think RWBY is valid in how she responded. Not in the healthiest way, but like she says, there's no time for me. Y'all don't have time to check in on me. I don't even have time to check in on me because we got to worry about Jean. We got to find a way home. And she even says to Weiss, we got to make sure someone doesn't screw everything up, because that was RWBY responding to them talking at the table about, well, if we can't rely on Jean, then who can we rely on that can actually help us? And it's like they didn't even like ask RWBY to chime in how she was feeling. It almost was like she wasn't even at the table. She wasn't even a part of that conversation. you know? And she was the one that stayed quiet. It wasn't even like, if she wanted to say something, that's one thing, but they didn't even, it almost kind of like they disregarded her out of that conversation altogether. And when she finally wanted to get a word in, it was ignored because, or interrupted, I should say, by the paper pleaser. So I also think this lends itself really well to RWBY's development, because like I said, RWBY has been a very static, optimistic character, bounces back from anything. And this isn't to say that RWBY's hasn't gone through it, right? She experienced losing Penny the first time. She experienced witnessing Pyrrha's death. She's experienced what it's like to face someone like Salem and Cinder who just kill people and will get in anybody's way. And she relayed that to Oscar, and she relayed that how it made her feel. But she also realized that as the leader, she has to keep moving forward, and she has faltered, and Jean was there in the past to pick her up. A la this scene here. It's kind of crazy how the shoe is now on the other foot. And these two characters, the two leaders that started out together, that were both unsure of their leadership roles at the beginning, who used to lift each other up, are now tearing each other down. Right? And it's because they're both pushed to the brink of what they are able to handle. They might be experienced fighters, but they are not experienced leaders. And when I mean leaders, I mean not just leading in terms of being the first character in their team name or whatever, but like leadership roles, as in like you lead like Ozpin has led, you lead like Ironwood has led. When you make a call, it has a ripple effect. And when you make a good call, you get credit. When you make a bad call, you take it on the chin, you learn from it, you grow, and you go through those growing pains as well. These are the growing pains, and they have never really had a moment to experience failure. And this is what's happening. What's happening is like this is what it looks like. This is how they're going through failure. And it gets kind of caught up with what's expected of them, I would say. What is expected of them as teammates or as a team, I would say. You know, it reminds me of The Badge and the Burden, right? Volume 1, chapter 8, where it's like RWBY does not feel like a leader because it seems like her teammates are making progress without her. So that kind of, again, that's another reinforcement to why she probably doesn't feel like she's needed. You know, Weiss, for the most part, I would say Weiss is kind of held together with the exception of like the moments where she thinks on her thinks on the kingdom and whatnot. You know, she's still excelling in combat. She has like a little bit of that banter with Jean. Blake and Yang have kind of sorted their emotions, their feelings out. They're kind of, you know, even them, they all kind of seem like they're, out of all 5 of these characters, Weiss and Jean are in the worst predicament compared to all 5 of them, right? Compared to Blake, Yang, and Weiss, them two are going through it the worst for different reasons, of course, but it just doesn't seem like RWBY doesn't feel like she's being prioritized, right? She feels like, you know, she's lashing out at Blake and Yang over their feelings because it's like, well, now, what if she's feeling like, well, I always relied on my sister and my sister was always there for me, but now I have to expect Blake and Yang's relationship to take precedent over ours, which is an understandable thing. Like, regardless of how close you are with your family, once you find once you find that person that you want to spend the rest of your lives with, some people might find this as a complete shocker, but your priorities do shift. And then when you have kids, your priorities shift again. You know what I mean? It's not just like family forever. You know what I mean? It's like parents and siblings take priority until you find like a husband or a wife or a partner or whatever. And then they're your priority. And then when you have kids, naturally, they become your main priority over your spouse, over your partner, over your friends and family and whatever. Like, that's just how shit works. So like it's baffling to me how some people are just like, oh my god, I can't believe can you believe that Yang is defending Blake in this moment against her sister who's lashing out in a way that, first off, Yang can handle that. If there's anyone if there's anyone in this group that can handle what Ruby's dishing out, it's her older sister, you know? But also, I was expecting a little bit more out of Yang. I was expecting Yang to just be the one to like grab Ruby and just be like, I'm sorry, like, you know what I mean? Like, just, and I feel like that might be in the next episode where they all just kind of come to the realization that they haven't been doing as much for Ruby as they could have been. And that's the ultimate thing that I'm taking away from this. It's not the fact that they didn't try. The question is, did they do enough? And I don't think they did. I think they could have done more. I think what they expressed was the bare minimum, and that's by design. You know, they have to do that from a writing standpoint to push Ruby to the point where they need or where they want her. But in not prioritizing Ruby, but by simultaneously developing themselves, Ruby sees that as like, oh, they don't care, or they're not like, there's no time for me. I'm not important enough. You know, that kind of energy. But yeah, so I felt like it was very valid from Ruby's perspective. The point that made things worse was that she spoke out of pocket when it came to Jean. And it was at that point that she was just trying to like lash out. At that point, she was lashing out. Before, it was somewhat coordinated. Like she was getting her feelings across to how she felt about Weiss's actions, Blake's actions, Yang's actions, or lack thereof, to how she was feeling and how she felt like her emotions, her feelings were being minimized because she's the leader and she shouldn't feel as bad as they do, and she shouldn't express the tough times as much as they do because she's the leader and her input matters more and she needs to stay positive, whereas they can kind of go through the motions of building themselves up to where they are now. And so now everyone else is good and Ruby's in shambles because she hasn't been given that same kind of what's the word I'm looking for? She hasn't been given that same kind of courtesy. And then, like, she spoke out of pocket for Jean because Jean is just a casualty to this entire situation. He's lost years of his life. He's had to cope in unimaginable ways of just kind of latching on to anything that gives him a semblance of humanity, where he's naming these afterends after people he knows, where he's basically fulfilling the purpose of protecting them as a way of safeguarding his emotions from his own failures that he's never been able to reconcile or face properly because he's been alone and because he, you know what I mean? It's just a form of preservation for him. And, you know, for him too, like he probably has felt like he's been put in this situation because of things that had nothing to do with him. It had to do with it had to do with the rules of the leader and whose plans didn't fall through the way that they were supposed to. Which, again, that's not Ruby's fault. That's the villain's fault. The villain's actually villained, and they did it pretty well. And, like, no matter what plan would have happened, it would have failed. If Jean made the plan, it would have failed. If Yang made the plan, it would have failed because they had Jin. But they don't know that, and that's what causes the divide that Salem is hoping for. You know what I mean? That's all it's doing. It's just causing more of a divide. It's causing more people questioning. It's causing more people to just kind of act in unpredictable ways. And at the end of the day, it's just building for the characters to where they start kind of lashing out at each other. Me when the villain's villain, they can't keep getting away with this. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I actually love that the villains took home the dub for the Atlas arc. Like, they were getting freaking destroyed in volumes 4 and 5 and 6. That, like, if they didn't win Atlas, I would have been fuming. You know what I mean? And like now they're carrying that, like that momentum is just carrying them, and they're not even doing anything right now because now the heroes are just kind of like eating, like they're just freaking, you know, the guilt and the failure is just eating them alive. And so the villains are just, this is just kind of like a post-mortem right now for the heroes. So like personally, I'm glad that the villains won. I'm also glad that Ironwood became his own worst enemy because like he always had good intentions, and I think there's something very poetic about wanting to do so much good that you end up doing bad for the sake of good. I just loved that aspect of him. Like psychologically, I enjoyed that aspect of Ironwood. But yeah, like everything turns on RWBY, and I feel like Jean is also a little out of pocket when he was like, it's all about RWBY. He's like, what about you? It's all about you. It's like, well, not necessarily, right? Like, none of y'all had a plan. So, by RWBY coming up with the plan, which, by the way, everyone agreed with, I don't see why Jean, like, again, Jean is just not all there in terms of, like, reasonably, like, being reasonable. Like, at that point, when them two are going back and forth, they're just trying to hurt each other at that point. Jean is just like, this is your fault. I'm feeling the way I'm feeling because of you, not because of anything internally that I need to sort out for myself. It's just easier to just want to blame somebody else, you know? And at the end of the day, Jean didn't do anything wrong. It's just like the actions of the villains caused the characters to do things that they normally wouldn't have wanted. Like, Jean had to kill Penny because of Cinder. And that was something that he was not ready to do, and he wasn't prepared to do, and he was forced to do it because he was the only one that could, and now he has to live with that forever. And that brought me to damn near tears when I heard him say that, because it's like, it's moments like that that make me fear that Jean isn't going to make it. Because it's like, he has this deep-seated conflict that will never, ever go away. And it makes me wonder, if that's how he feels, how can he move forward? Yeah, it's grief and it's guilt, and like it makes me think like Jean doesn't care where he is or when he is. He knows that no matter what, he's got to live. He has to live with it forever, and it seems like he doesn't know how. And it seems like he doesn't know if he can, because he's had years and he still hasn't moved past it. And that's where the red flag for him comes from with me. Is like, I just don't know if... I just can't see him functioning in Remnant with such a huge freaking burden on his shoulders like that. You know, alongside Ren and Nora, on top of being like 40 years old. You know? And I start thinking to myself, well, if Lewis and Alex got out in the way that he thinks, where one person had to sacrifice for the other person to make it out, I wouldn't be surprised if that person is Jean. If Jean feels like ascending is the best thing for him to move forward. And it would be an interesting juxtaposition, because he did not allow the Afterins to ascend forward the way that they were supposed to, because he was living in the past. And the only way for him to move forward is to move forward as a new thing, as a new person, as a new entity, what have you. Which means, in a way, we lose Jean Arc, but I don't know what that is going to look like. I don't know what he's going to... I don't know if he's going to become a part of the Ever After, or if there's going to be a new Jean that goes back to Remnant with them. I have no idea what that's like, or what that's going to be like for him. But yeah, I thought... I like... God, this last scene here was just literally, this made the episode for me. Like, this literally was the peak of the episode. I think it's just like the peak of the volume. I think this is the best. This might actually be like my favorite episode of the volume too. Ruby's reaction too, like, she's like, why are you asking me? 7 episodes in and now you guys give a shit about what I have to say? You know what I mean? Like, that's the energy she carried in this episode, like, in that moment. She was just like, we were standing around that table not 5 minutes ago and I just sat there in silence. No one said anything to me. No one's checked up on me. No one's cared about how I've been feeling this entire time. It's all about y'all. It's all about Jean. It's all about getting home. It's all about our feelings. But whenever I try to open my mouth, it's, oh, something else takes priority, or, oh, I'm being interrupted because this person has something to say, or, Ruby, don't think that way, or, you know, just focus on that later. You're not allowed to you're not allowed to express those kind of feelings right now because they're not I don't know, they're not productive or whatever, you know? And so yeah, like, her snapping, it's long overdue at this point. And it's like, she's like, what the fuck you want me to say? Like, I'm just sitting here listening to all this shit. And I'm thinking about how I'm feeling and how y'all, and again, it's like, I feel like it's the same energy as earlier, which is, you know, she's upset and she wants her teammates to know that she's upset, but you don't want to say it. You know what I mean? Like, you want to believe that your friends know you as well as you think they know you. And they're just kind of missing the mark. They've missed the mark of the entire volume. And so I also think it's important to realize that they all stayed quiet. I don't know if that's an admission of, like, some, like, guilt where they feel like, oh, well, you know, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I should have tried a little bit more to get through. Because Yang kind of was just like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you took shots at me, don't do that, or whatever. I don't know what Yang was going to say, but, like, it's also kind of just, like, shock because Ruby's never talked this way to anyone ever. And what's hyping me up, what's got me super excited for the next episode is their reaction to it all. And how they're going to, and what they're going to do, and how they're going to do it. And RWBY. Like, I really hope that that's not all we get. I really hope this is the beginning of just, like, RWBY not giving a flying fuck about anything except for what she wants and what she, and herself. And, like, also potentially giving Neo a reality check because, you know, Neo's just kind of like, she's probably like, Neo, you're the reason all this shit happened anyway. From our argument just now happened because of you, and I have a few choice words for you. You know, so I'm like super excited for tomorrow's episode just to see the aftermath of all of this, because this was peak. This was literally peak. So, oh man, it's out of character for RWBY, and that's the point. The point is it was out of character, which is kind of in character, like, for anybody else. Like, that's a very in character behavior for a character who's never expressed themselves like that. It's kind of like, holy shit, RWBY, you're actually a human being with a range of emotions and not just this optimistic robot. You know what I mean? So it's long overdue. And I'm really happy that it happened. It just makes me worried for Jean, number one, because, like, I don't know what's going to happen with him after this volume. If he's going back to Remnant, and if not, what's going to happen to him and, like, his mental. I'm really interested to see how Weiss, RWBY's teammate, Blake, RWBY's teammate, well, Weiss is RWBY's, like, partner. Blake's her teammate, and Yang's her sister. And it's like, how are they going to respond to that outburst? And are any of them going to take any level of accountability in not doing more than what they've done, or not prioritizing RWBY, or not taking for granted that they thought she was good this whole time when clearly she hasn't been, and it's only taken RWBY lashing out like this for them to realize that there was more going on. That's what I'm really invested in for next week. Tomorrow, technically. But yeah, those are my like big expectations for tomorrow. I mean, they don't have to be angry. This isn't like, I can't believe RWBY said that to me. I'm expecting a reaction which is like, damn, I can't believe I didn't realize that she was hurting that much. Or, I can't believe I didn't try doing more. You know what I mean? Like, I really want it to kind of be like them realizing that they are not as perceptive as they probably think they are. And despite RWBY being the leader, she's still the youngest. And she is still trying to cope with a lot of the emotions that have come with the fall of Atlas. And she doesn't really have the luxury of experience in that way to cope with it as much as anybody else. I feel like Jean would have had a better time dealing with it if he wasn't alone for 20 fucking years, you know? So that's what I really, really, really want out of this episode moving forward. RWBY's alone. She's incredibly vulnerable. She's highly emotional. Another thing that we have to think about that I haven't even talked about until now is the blacksmith. We still have the conversation with the blacksmith or the second part of that conversation where they mention that, you know, what if you could do away with Ruby Rose like an old coat and become someone new? That's still a conversation that has yet to happen fully. And I expect her to have that follow-up conversation with the blacksmith. And with how RWBY's feeling right now, the worst thing you can do is make decisions when you're that emotional. And she might actually agree to ascend or evolve or change or put down her burden or whatever equivalent there is for her to change. And Little's the only one that's with her too. So that's another thing to consider. So maybe Little can dissuade her, but I feel like, and again, I feel like if RWBY ascends, that would be a great volume finale, which is why I'm even more convinced that we're not leaving the Ever After, because for them to have the outburst that they just had in the last episode, I would feel like it's a very short-lived experience if that got resolved by the end of this upcoming episode tomorrow. And then you just have a bunch of other shit that you have to worry about with the penultimate chapter and then the finale. So it's like, I don't want this to be a quick resolution for RWBY. I want this to have a lasting impact, especially if they see RWBY change and it's like, damn, like, RWBY's no longer RWBY. How do we get that back? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I feel like that would be incredibly dramatic and that would add a lot of tension to Weiss, Blake, and Yang, because it's like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of angst there and there's a lot of potential there. But yeah, like, I almost feel like Volume 9 is like a buildup of RWBY's change, like RWBY changing as a person. Whether that's ascension or not is a different story. Because now the fairy tale is just kind of like, you know, like Alex, you know, the girl who fell to the world when she went back to Remnant, she was different. Was she different because she was hardened, or was she different because she ascended? And which one of those endings is going to be for RWBY? What's RWBY going to be when she goes back to Remnant? Is she going to be Ruby Rose that we've known, who has kind of learned a thing or two and has actually matured and hardened a little bit from the Ever After? Or is it literally going to be a different person, like a different person in a Ruby Rose freaking body, you know? Yeah, she did grab Crescent Rose before she left, which means that there could be a tussle with Neo, you know? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to have to be fighting in an emotional state, especially since you could barely hold your own against that Jabberwocker. But with her lashing out, I'm not going to say Ruby's going to get blood on her hands, but I wonder if she'll, like, fight a little bit more aggressively because she's so pissed off, you know? And if Neo should, check herself, she's going to go full red trailer. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. This is a completely different take for RWBY. So, like, for me, it's like I genuinely cannot tell. She's very unpredictable. Finally weeding out the unimportant characters. I see your super chat, Zach. I'm not sure the context of it just because it's been a while. Hawk, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. With how things have been going, do you think the Ever After is trying to teach lessons to those who fall into it? For RWBY that she can't handle the burden alone, and John that Penny isn't his fault, and Alex, and for Alex to not be selfish. I don't know. Like, the Ever After is just it's like a character in and of itself, really. Like, it kind of acts and reacts based on whoever has center stage. Like, it's been very responsive to RWBY's emotions. I feel like the Afterins could have been a response to Jean coming to the Ever After, and, like, them trying to seek him, or to help him seek a solution to his issues. So yeah, I could definitely see that being a part of its purpose, like the Ever After itself's purpose, you know? Like, all of the Afterins have a purpose, but the purpose of the Ever After for anyone that comes here who's not from here, maybe they do leave with a lesson, and it's for better or for worse. So yeah. Does everyone know that Jean killed Penny, or do they think that Cinder killed her? So I want to clarify this, because I feel like some people I don't want to say that anyone's interpretation is wrong. I'm going to give you my interpretation and why I feel that way. So in the last episode, when Jean linked back up with Team RWBY and company, their response was like, oh, Jean, how did you get here? How did you fall? What happened to you? How did you become the rest of the night? When did you get so mature? Jean's response was, I guess we have a lot of catching up to do. And then they did a transition where they made it out of the Lotus to the fields. And as they were coming out of that hole, as they were coming out of the cave, the implication is that Jean gave them the full story of everything that happened. Because if you guys remember, in the first episode, Weiss attempted to do that, and RWBY passed out. So Weiss could have told Blake and Yang everything that happened, and RWBY just didn't hear it. But then, if Jean told the same exact story in full detail, including Winter becoming the maiden, Cinder getting both relics, Jean falling, but Winter making it through, it would make sense for him to fully tell them what the audience knows. And here's one thing about the RWBY community. They do not like it when the characters divulge information that they already know. So my interpretation is that Jean did tell them everything that happened, including Penny, but he did it. It was done off screen because it was already known information. The issue with that is that some people, actually, or rather, a lot of people wanted there to be some type of volatile reaction to RWBY finding out that Penny died through the assistance of Jean. And I don't think there's much reason to get upset about that if that's what Penny wanted. RWBY can be upset, but she can't blame Jean for that if that's what Penny wanted to secure the maiden power going to Winter instead of Cinder. And I don't really think it's productive at all for RWBY to get upset for Jean at that, because Jean is already going through that grief And he doesn't need someone else like I don't think RWBY's that type of person, that type of malicious person to hold that over Jean's head. Like, that's something that you cannot come back from. And that makes you, that's like a fucking scumbag thing to do if RWBY gets on Jean for that. But, like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people want RWBY to know specifically that Jean is the one that killed her for some type of angst. You know, or it's like, that was the final push. It's like, well, Penny's dead regardless of how she died. She died on her terms. And it was assisted suicide to prevent the relics from going to the bad guy and making things even worse for them. So, so that's how I interpret. I feel like they all know, which again would make sense why Jean's saying, back on the bridge, I was the only one that could do it. I was the only one. It wouldn't make sense for him to say that if none of them know what he's referring to. Or even him saying, you know, and now I have to live with that forever. Like, what the hell is it? Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of like, it would make no sense for him to say that if they didn't know what he was talking about. You know? So that's my perspective. And that, I think that is a pretty, like, straightforward one. Like, that's how I've seen it. Some people need to see it to believe it, but I can understand why they wouldn't want to verbally express that, because it's already something that the audience knows. And so it just kind of, it's less things that they have to cut in to express. It's like, well, they know what we know now, you know? So, yeah. I think it would make sense for a tense moment. I don't want to think that they had that conversation off screen without showing how RWBY would react if there's a huge focus on the group's emotions individually. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but like, I feel like Jean's already getting enough shit as it is. You know what I mean? And to have more people get on him for something that he was forced to do in a moment of like a split-second decision. The last thing this guy needs is someone blaming him for something that he already feels like he can't go the rest of his life dealing with. So, yeah. And I mean, who knows? Like, if RWBY does have something to say about it in the next episode, all I hope is that she... I hope she understands that you can't take back the words you say no matter what your emotional state is. Because people say things that they don't mean at a time where people say things that they think they mean that they don't. And it's like, even if you apologize for it, the fact that you said it proves that at one point you felt that way. And that could be too much for some people. You know what I mean? Like, that an apology can never undo. So yeah, that is the episode in general. The concept art was great. Ruby Rose on the top left concept art looks just as done as she was when she left in the episode. I noticed that too. I'm like, bro, even the Ruby here is pissed off. They were like, all right, guys, no happy times for Ruby Rose, be it 2D or 3D. You got the Juniper art. You got the locations. Look really, really good in general. But yeah, and I will say this too. I know this is kind of like tail end, but RWBY telling Blake to shut up was so satisfying. Not because it's like I want yeah, shut the fuck up, Blake. Like, just shut your goddamn mouth. Like, it's not nothing like that. But, like, sometimes people just want to fester in their anger. And Blake trying to de-escalate the situation is not the best thing to do. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just stay quiet. Like, the last thing someone in Ruby State wants to hear is how, yeah, you shouldn't, like, and that's why she was like, shut up, don't do that. Like, don't minimize how I'm feeling because it makes the situation unbearable, because that's the whole reason why she's reacting that way to begin with. You know? You know, so she's just like, guys, I know, like, she was literally going the optimism route. Like, guys, I know things are bad, but it's like, things are bad, but they're not bad for you. They're bad for Jean. They're bad for Ruby right now. By comparison, you've got it, like, you're good, right? You were just freaking hand-holding with your girlfriend last episode. You know, you just fight, you guys just got your feelings sorted. Like, Ruby is going through it. And I guarantee you, the last person she wants to hear talk her down from her feelings right now is you. So I kind of felt like Ruby, I felt that for her. I was like, yeah, like, low key, you kind of deserve that. So, yeah, maybe not deserved, but like, for how Ruby's feeling, it's completely understandable for her to just be like, let me have this, god damn it. I can't have shit in this house, you know? But yeah, great episode. Really, really, really loved it. The ending brought it home. I thought it was a pretty good episode in general, but the ending, like, all of those emotions, all of that back and forth arguments, like, that's the fucking good shit. That's the shit that I'm like, ooh, like, drama. I fucking love this shit. I really want, because, like, how often do these characters get caught up in drama amongst each other? Usually it's with the villains or it's with, like, some, like, outside force, but, like, these are the characters that have been together. They're stuck together like glue, you know, through thick and thin, and now they're kind of low-key at each other's throats. Also, Lindsay and Miles, phenomenal job with the voice acting. RIP to the paper pleasers, but hopefully there's going to be a massive surplus of ascensions going through to the tree right now. And I want to know what's going to happen to Jean, and I want to know what's going to happen to Ruby. Like, these two characters above all else, these two are the ones that I'm, like, hyper invested in right now, just finding out what the hell is going to happen to them. Whether it be next week or the finale when we potentially leave the Ever After. I'm also hoping we get Neo in tomorrow's episode, and I'm also hoping that we get the fucking blacksmith in the next episode. How long do you guys think tomorrow's episode's gonna be? Now, you guys can give an accurate, like, what you guys actually think, or what do you guys want? I feel like everyone's gonna be like, as long as it can possibly be, please. 15, 20? 20 minutes, 20 minutes? Yeah, I'm feeling that too. I'm really shocked that we haven't gotten like 20, 25. I'm surprised we haven't gotten like 25-ish minute episodes. Dude, every day I watch RWBY, I just pray for another, I literally pray for another Lost Fables. Like, that runtime was fucking wild, bro. Like, Lost Fables really, like, put out all the stops, dude. I'm just like, damn, dude, I've never been the same. I wish that for RWBY every week. But yeah, I'm hoping for at least 20 minutes for the rest of these episodes. There's 3 left, and if we're really leaving the Ever After this volume, I cannot foresee how this volume is going to wrap up in such a... I just feel... I don't know, man. Like, I can't see it. I can't see Vacuo next volume. That's just me, though. Like, I literally cannot... With all the... Like, there's too much in my mind that I just feel like needs to be addressed. for us to be gone in 3 episodes. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited for tomorrow's episode. My episode reaction to chapter 7 will be up on YouTube tomorrow. I'm actually going to arrange for that to be posted to like as a premiere. Last week's episode was a little messed up because YouTube was processing my video for like 4 days before they actually added in like my like the proper resolution. So last week's episode was just a direct upload. I have not directly uploaded a reaction since volume 5. Volume 6, 7, and 8 were all premieres. So it felt super weird to just not have the chat and rewatch the episode with everybody, especially with such a monumental episode like the bees. But for this week, I'm like, you know what? I actually prefer that it was the bees last week, because this is the episode I'm really looking forward to watching as like a premiere with people in the chat and everything. So yeah. How many fairy tales are there in RWBY again? Too many to count, honestly. You'd be surprised how packed these episodes can be. I know. I feel like they can pack a lot in there, but I just don't. With how the previous episodes have been paced, right? 1 episode per acre, per conflict, per situation. And with a finale, with me having so many expectations on the finale itself, it just... And with the intro too, like I feel like... And RWBY's identity change and this falling out they just had, like... Those conflicts alone just feel so... Like, I feel like they need time to flourish. So, I don't know. I have no clue. If we get the Ever After in Volume 10, I called it. I saw that shit coming from a mile away. And if it doesn't, then I really wonder how they're going to expedite all of these points. But yeah, thank you guys all so much. I think that's going to, overall, we still have the real content that y'all have been waiting for. But I loved this. I loved this episode. I feel like the discussion may have been all over the place, because I feel like I was holding off on what we really wanted to talk about at the end of the episode, which was the Jean and which is like the Jean and RWBY like outburst and the emotions and all of that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was still entertaining and thought-provoking. Let me see. Okay, hold on a second. Which... Okay. Wait, hold on. Which app? These 2 pages look deviously similar. All right, I think I'm on page 18. Yeah, I think I'm on page 18. Okay. Don't you have a bookmark? I should actually... I'm gonna start using one. Look at this. Look at this. This is the page last week. This is the page this week. I feel like I'm being... Like, I'm just like, bro, which one was it? I don't... They literally look like this. It's like... like, which one... Like, it's like that Office meme. It's like, they're both the same. They're the same picture. So yeah, I'm like, which... Like, both pages look similar. I don't remember. But I think it's this one. I think it's this one. I'm gonna get through... Hold on, give me 1 second. Let me actually get through the rest of these super chats real quick. Hawk, thank you for the $20 super chat once again. I appreciate that. I feel like a big aspect is that Summer has been haunting RWBY's every steps in the Ever After. She's been holding herself to her mother's ideal of a huntress, learning that Salem faced her in Volume 7, even giving up her mother's promise. That's another thing too, like the Summer Rose breadcrumbs that we've been getting, like the mother's reflection, the mother's promise, the reflection that seemingly looked like Summer Rose, but also could have been an ascended version of what RWBY's ideal version of herself is. There's so much. I didn't even get to address the Summer Rose stuff either. Let's see. I feel like it's also important to note that RWBY has never acted this way. Yang wouldn't know what to do on the spot. That's true. I mean, I just feel like Yang is just a bit more abrasive to be able to just like handle whatever her sister dishes out to her, you know? Zach Feifel, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that. Wow, I really apologize for not getting through all these. There were so many super chats that I just missed. And I really, really do appreciate it to everyone that left a comment and support. Dinomorphic, thank you for the $5 super chat. 17 minutes with 2 minutes from the intro and outro. I feel like it's cutting it close. I'm going to get to this, and then I'm going to catch up on any super chats that I missed out on. All right. Let us continue. Page 18. Look at me, look at me, look at me now. It's fun to have fun, but... Wait, hold on, let me read this again. Look at me, look at me, look at me now. It is fun to have fun, but you have to know how. I can hold up a cup and milk and wait, I can hold up a cup and the milk and the cake. I can hold up these books and the fish on a rake. I can hold up the toy boat. I can hold up the toy ship and a little toy man. And look, with my tail, I can hold up a red fan. And I can fan with the fan and hop on a ball, but that's not all. Oh no, that is not all. Jesus, look at this guy. What a real piece of work. This fucking cat. That's an accident waiting. Actually, that is an accident waiting to happen. We'll get to that next week. Ah, man, oh man. All right, and that is the discussion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try to get through some of these last couple super chats just to kind of follow through on all the support that you guys showed today. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Coaching Hero, thank you for the $5 super chat. Does anyone know... Oh, yeah, I answered that. The Jean and... Does anyone know that Jean killed Penny? Zach Feifel, thank you for the $5 super chat. Jean has an inferiority complex. He's got a hero complex, too. You know, he wants to be the hero. He wants to be the one to save people. And, you know, at every turn, it kind of falls... he falls flat on his face. Let's see. D'Anthony Potts, how's it going, dude? Thanks for the super chat, man. Ruby saved Atlas and stopped Penny's termination. The only reason the relic was captured because Penny wouldn't leave them behind. Crazy Jean didn't, crazy. Oh, it's crazy that Jean said it didn't work. Yeah, I mean, I get that too, but like Penny realizing that her friends being in danger compelled her to act over the plan is very in character for her. And again, that was something that if Penny didn't go through, they all would have died. Like Penny detouring the plan was crucial for those characters getting out alive in whatever way that they were able to. You know, like every action kind of led to where they are now because anything being deviated to the plan would have caused more casualties, I think. Ruby had time to speak her mind, volumes 4 and 5, to open up with her friends and family of how she felt. Beacon, Penny, and Pyrrha, she didn't, though. I mean, this isn't referring to the time that she, like... Ruby reconciling her feelings for volumes 4 and 5, that's not what's coming up here. What's coming up here is the initial responses to Atlas. Like, I actually think Ruby's outbursts now are more based on, like, what's happened recently. Not what happened to Pyrrha or what happened at Beacon. Like, those things she has had time to talk herself through. But, like... She hasn't had any time to breathe for what's recently happened. And that's why she's lashing out now. She's not lashing out now for stuff that happened during volumes 4 and 5. So yeah. All right, and I think for the most part, I covered all of these other super chats as we made it through. A lot of first-time super chatters, and if you guys are one of those people in the chat, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I feel like I really hope the discussion was just entertaining and enjoyable for you guys. I don't know why, but I just feel like I was all over the place with my thoughts this episode because there was just so many things I wanted to talk about, and there were things that I wanted to talk about but I didn't want to jump too far ahead in the conversation. So hopefully you guys were still entertained. Hopefully the content was still a nice little distraction. We're about 3 hours of your time. Adam Savage, thank you for the super chat. Do you think Neo will talk this volume? No. What would actually be kind of cool is if Neo talked through one of her clones that does have a voice. For example, if she creates a Torchwick clone and then Torchwick is talking on behalf of her, that would be a cool way for Neo to talk without it being her talking. I think that would be pretty sick. Because we all know that, you know, Torchwick has a voice. Torchwick speaks. Also, there could be a chance that if Billy managed to get voice acting done for Volume 9 before their passing, that could be salvaged through this volume if that managed to happen before Ice Queendom. So that would be interesting as well. You know, because the what's the word I'm looking for? The Jabberwockers kind of emulate the real thing. So I don't know if it's necessarily Neo speaking for them or if they are acting, if they're their own kind of like husk life forms that are acting upon whatever they are imitating. So yeah. Wait, who passed? Billy Kometz. The voice, he was supposed to voice act for Torchwick and Ice Queendom. But he unfortunately passed away. And so the thought was that if he was voicing Torchwick, if Torchwick was going to come back in the form of a clone this volume, the chances of him being able to voice act for Volume 9 was greater because it was before, like, they would have gotten all that voice work done prior. So yeah. Oh, damn it. I missed the entire stream, didn't I? Yes. Yes, you did. 3 hours and 23 minutes of discussion. But yeah, I mean, the VOD will be up if you care to watch or hear my thoughts on it after the fact. Let's see. Let me get through these last two and then we'll call it. Curious as to your reaction if Neo were to finally talk, then, but then turns out she never shuts up and is annoying. I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would. I couldn't picture Neo saying more than like a line or two, especially if it's like her last moments or whatever, or talking at all even. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, to go the entire time not talking to then saying something at the end, I don't know how people would feel about that. But also Neo is the most expressive character, so maybe she doesn't even need to say anything, you know? But yeah, I don't know. It really depends if she still has more time in the show beyond the Ever After. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the generosity. Thank you for hanging out and hearing me ramble about this episode for the last 3 hours. My reaction to Volume 7 will be posted tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. My reaction to Episode 8 will be uploaded to Patreon as soon as possible after I watch the episode tomorrow. Very, very, very excited for the conversations that we're going to have, what the characters are going to say, what RWBY's state's going to be like, the aftermath of everything that they just said, if Neo's going to be a factor, if we're going to see the blacksmith again or anything else like that. But yeah, we have 3 episodes left. Episode 8 tomorrow, episode 9 next week, and the finale next week, the week after that. So yeah, really hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thank you for the support. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you guys same time next week, or rather Thursday for next week for Chapter 8. But yeah, thank you guys all so much. Enjoy the rest of your night, and take care. Bye-bye.